Chapter 108. Why are you forcing me? Guan originally just wanted to eavesdrop, but the woman in the purple dress used her divine sense to detect him and even showed hostility, implying that she wanted to tear him to pieces. Can this be tolerated? Guan caught her directly. Before killing her, he first investigated the internal information of the ephemera sect. The woman's identity was obviously not simple, and he might get some useful information. The woman in the purple dress was named Xuan, previously an elder of the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. She joined the ephemera sect 200 years ago, and after the ephemera sect's defeat, she had been lurking within the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. Yang and I was personally recruited by her. Yang and I joined the sect because Xuan promised to help her find the murderer of her sister. Xuan's purpose in recruiting Yang and I was to monitor Li Xiandao and Li Ya. Xuan felt that Li Ya, who had inherited the heavenly resident sword, might become the crown prince, so she first had Yang and I monitor this father and son pair, waiting for the ephemera sect's resurgence. Yang and I didn't completely trust Xuan. She just wanted an additional channel to find the truth. Little did she know, the person who killed her sister was Xuan herself. The power structure of the ephemera sect was very complex, with many branches. Every void-crossing realm elder was working to establish their own achievements. As long as their contributions were significant, they could walk the Nine Nether Road, seeking the immortal path. Xuan had only heard of the Nine Nether Road, never seen it. It was said that the Nine Nether Road could cross the ocean to another continent. The Nine Nether Road was the yin-yang path opened by the ephemera sect, passing through a ghostly realm where yin and yang intersected, filled with evil ghosts and extreme danger, but also full of opportunities. After investigating for a long time, Guan still did not obtain information about the main lineage of the ephemera sect and could not understand how powerful it was. When he withdrew his divine sense, an hour had already passed. He looked down at Xuan's alluring face, his eyes full of disdain. When he used the soul-capturing skill earlier, he saw many unspeakable scenes. A demon cultivator is just a demon cultivator. Guan immediately ended Xuan's life, then burned her body to ashes. This great cultivator of the void-crossing realm died silently. She contributed decades of lifespan to Guan, which was passable. Afterward, Guan began to inventory her 2 storage rings. Meanwhile, Yang and I was in her room, still unable to calm her mind and cultivate. Xuan's threats kept surfacing in her mind. Thinking about how Guan got involved because of her, she felt guilty. It wasn't that she had special feelings for Guan, it's just that after so many years together, their relationship had grown closer. Thinking that such a good-natured junior might be persecuted because of her made her uneasy. By dawn, Wuxia called the disciples out for exercise, and Guan went downstairs. The plan for a day lies in the morning, Yang and I, it's time to come out and practice. Guan went outside Yang and I's courtyard and shouted. Yang and I quickly came out, only nodding slightly to Guan as if nothing had happened the previous night. Guan didn't say much, but he felt slightly relieved that Yang and I dared to draw her sword when threatened by Xuan the night before. Later on, I'll assign her more land to plant more flowers and plants. Ever since that night with Xuan, Yang and I went to the outer sect every 2 days, under the pretext of looking for high-rank seed. Guan's routine remained undisturbed, still traveling between the 3 medicine valleys. At the end of summer, Guan arrived at Tian Valley. Luo Hun and Iluyan had gone out, taking 3 monkey demons with them, leaving only Lv in the medicine valley. A great cultivator's cave was discovered thousands of miles away, with many heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Iluyan took them to fetch them and won't be back for a few days. Lv came to Guan and explained. His gaze was fixed on Guan, burning brightly. Guan nodded slightly, then turned to walk toward the garden. Who are you really, Guan? Lv voice came from behind, his tone different from usual, carrying intense hostility. Guan stopped and turned to look at Lv, smiling. What kind of deity am I? I'm just an ordinary cultivator who loves planting. This guy wasn't acting right. Why did it feel like he had changed? Could it be that another remnant soul in his body had taken control? Guan wondered, confused. LV Xian sneered, his face becoming ferocious. I only taught you a few times, yet your mastery of Mystic Tortoise Surging Wave Palm has already surpassed my 10 years of hard practice. Guan raised an eyebrow. He didn't expect that holding back intentionally would still be noticed by LV Xian. This was troublesome. LV Xian took a step forward, the aura of Core Formation Realm 9th layer erupted, lifting the fallen leaves on the ground like a tornado rising into the sky, creating a grand scene. Though it was the 9th layer of the Core Formation Realm cultivation level, it could already match the aura of the lower nascent soul realm. As expected of the Supreme Sect's former number 1 genius. I discovered that cave long ago, calculated the day you would come and sent them away in advance. Today, let's have a showdown. LV Xian sneered. His right palm began to accumulate spiritual power, the space under his palm fluctuating violently like surging waves. Guan raised his hand and said, "Don't mess around, I really am not a genius. Why target me? I have no threat to you. If you mess around, they'll have to kill you." LV Xian licked his lips and said, "Don't worry, I won't kill you, I just want to test your depth. If you continue to hide your strength, you'll suffer the same fate as Li Ya." At this remark, Gu An's gaze turned cold. "Try my Mystic Tortoise Surging Wave Palm." LV Xian shouted, striking out with a palm. The palm wind swept out, shaking heaven and earth, and the wild wind rose from the ground, bringing overwhelming pressure toward Guan, lifting the grass of the lawn, and filling the air with dust. Boom! The palm wind of the Mystic Tortoise Surging Wave Palm soared into the sky, forming a nearly 100-zhang high airwave wall, spectacular beyond compare. LV Xian's smile froze. Looking in the direction of his gaze, Guan stood still behind the airwave, his palm power forcibly blocked. The medicinal herbs in all the gardens behind Guan swayed in the wind but remained in the soil, untouched. At this moment, Guan's face was expressionless, and his entire temperament suddenly changed, making LV Xian feel unfamiliar. "You," LV Xian trembled in his voice, seeing Guan step toward him. With just one step, Guan crossed several zhang, arriving in front of him. Boom! LV Xian's aura was directly dispersed. The terrifying power made him fall back, sitting paralyzed on the ground, without the demeanor of the top of the hidden dragon list. Guan raised his right hand, looking down at him, his palm facing his head. LV Xian was horrified to find himself unable to move, suppressed by an overwhelming spiritual power he could not resist. Divinity transformation. LV Xian gritted his teeth. His judgment was correct. Guan indeed suppressed his realm at the divinity transformation realm, enough to overshadow him easily. "Why did you have to force me?" Guan looked down at LV Xian and asked softly. The murderous intent in his eyes became tangible, making LV Xian feel the breath of death. His expressionless face was so terrifying that LV Xian had never seen such a frightening expression. "Wait!" LV Xian quickly shouted, showing a panic-stricken look for the first time. Guan just quietly looked down at him. Actually, Guan didn't want to kill him. After all, LV Xian was LV Baishan's son, and LV Xian had no malice towards him, indicating he really just wanted to spar. To avoid being entangled, Guan could only use the power of the divinity transformation realm to scare him to the core. "I was wrong, don't kill me," LV Xian gritted his teeth, lowering his proud head, not daring to look at Guan. He was still paralyzed on the ground, unable to get up, and felt humiliated in this posture. "But you've exposed my real cultivation level, and he'll definitely face endless trouble in the future. This makes me very troubled. I just want to plant my plants in peace. Why do you have to force me, why?" Guan said coldly. By the end, his voice sounded like a low roar, his features contorting as if he were about to go insane. LV Xian looked up, frightened by his hysterical expression, and quickly said, "I will never tell. I swear. I promise." Guan's right hand began to gather spiritual power, the terrifying power of the divinity transformation realm making LV Xian shiver with fear. "Wait, I know the whereabouts of an 8th-rank spirit flower. This flower has been maturing for hundreds of years and hasn't turned into a spirit yet. Don't you love planting flowers? You can go get it." LV Xian said urgently, shaking with fear. Guan's expression changed, squinting as he asked, "Where is it?" LV Xian felt the oppressive force weaken, hurriedly taking out a map from his storage bag. "This is the map. I got it from an old senior when I participated in the 100 Clans Assembly." Guan took the map, glanced at it briefly, then put it into his storage bag. He looked back at LV Xian, frowning. "Will you really not tell anyone? If I reveal your cultivation level, you'll suffer inner demon invasion during tribulation crossing and perish." LV Xian immediately swore. Hearing this, Guan retracted his aura, his cultivation level returning to the Foundation establishment realm. The flowers in the Medicine Valley stopped swaying, and LV Xian breathed a sigh of relief, sweating profusely and panting heavily. Guan returned to his usual gentle expression. He pulled LV Xian up, patted the dust off him. "Brother LV, pardon the offense. Promise me, don't make such jokes next time, it's not funny." Hearing this, LV Xian forced a smile. Then, Guan turned and left, heading for the garden. Watching his back, LV Xian remained silent for a long time. Half an hour later, Guan greeted LV Xian before leaving. LV Xian sat on the lawn, staring at the sun in the sky, dazed. Day turned to night, and for 2 consecutive days and nights, he did not get up. Until Luo Hun, Yi Luyun, and the 3 monkey demons returned, chatting and laughing, obviously having had a great haul. Yi Luyun saw LV Xian sitting dazed on the ground, smiled and asked, "LV Xian, why aren't you cultivating?" LV Xian's body trembled slightly. He turned to Yi Luyun and asked, "Do you think I can achieve divinity transformation before 100? He knew Guan's age because Guan was about the same age as Li Ya. If you hadn't wasted time before, you could definitely reach divinity transformation before 100. Unfortunately, you're already 90. It's hard to go from the 9th layer of the core formation realm to the 1st layer of the divinity transformation realm in 10 years. Yi Luyun shook his head and said. Luo Hun suggested, "His Majesty values you so highly. Just ask, and he'll provide you with a large amount of elixir." LV Xian remained silent. He fell into self-doubt, wondering if he really was not a genius. Chapter 109. Ancestor Xian Tian, Heaven-Cutting Divine Axe. Since LV Xian had been disciplined by Guan, he thoroughly became honest. When Guan went to Tianya Valley again, LV Xian was always in closed-door cultivation. Luo Hun said he wanted to reach the divinity transformation realm as soon as possible. Guan asked for the reason, but Luo Hun said he didn't know. This made Guan feel at ease. LV Xian might be crazy, but he was tight-lipped. This matter passed. Guan studied the map given by LV Xian. It was too far from the Taicang dynasty, so he could only set it aside for now. What if that place had Mahayana cultivators? He couldn't take the risk. Now the lifespan income from the 3 medicine valleys was considerable. Even if he didn't improve, he could quickly expand his lifespan. In the blink of an eye. 2 months had passed. The autumnal scenery of withered yellow covered the mystic valley. On this day, near noon, Yi Lan came to visit her. Having not seen each other for nearly a year, Yi Lan missed Guan a lot. As soon as she entered the room, she hugged him. "Junior sister," Guan said in a deep voice with a tone of reproach. Yi Lan let go of him and laughed, saying, "What's wrong with hugging? This is a ceremony for reunion after a long separation between senior and junior apprentices. Senior brother, don't think too much. I don't want any romantic affairs now, I just want to cultivate immortality." Guan rolled his eyes at her and then turned to make her tea. He had just instinctively performed a lifespan detection on Yi Lan, which made him feel a bit heavy-hearted. Yi Lan, Foundation Establishment Realm 5th Layer 56/130/130, the regular lifespan for the Foundation Establishment Realm exceeded 200, but Yi Lan's Foundation Establishment was built up with Guan's elixirs, so it had already reached its limit. What would happen when Yi Lan reached the age of 130? Would it be celestial decline and sudden death, or demonic possession, causing chi blood to attack the heart? Guan sighed inwardly and decided to teach Yi Lan the Taoist expansion skill. With 74 years left, perhaps it could be effective. The Taoist expansion skill was a process of accumulating spiritual power. Guan had a bold idea. What would happen when practicing the Taoist expansion skill while frantically consuming spirit energy elixirs? Yi Lan didn't know what her senior brother was thinking and began to narrate what she had seen and heard during her recent outing. The law enforcement hall went out to protect the Crown Prince Li Dai. The enemies were from the Ephemera sect. Over the past half-year, she had experienced 7 or 8 battles and survived without danger. Guan had known about this for a long time because he occasionally used his divine sense to check on her. The disciples of the law enforcement hall were basically scouts. The real fighters were several nascent soul realm cultivators. Senior brother, the reason we were able to come back was that a void-crossing realm great cultivator came to protect the Crown Prince. Above the nascent soul realm is the divinity transformation, and above the divinity transformation is the void-crossing realm. That senior was amazing. He killed the Ephemera sect's demon cultivator in the divinity transformation realm with one palm. At that time, we all thought we were doomed, but it turned out the Crown Prince had such a master behind him. They say he is not even a cultivator of the Supreme Sect. Yi Lan seemed very excited when she talked about the great cultivator in the void-crossing realm. Guan raised an eyebrow, pretending to be shocked. That powerful? How old is he? It said he's already 900 years old. Yi Lan said this while carefully observing Gu An's expression. She once suspected Gu and was sword venerable Fudao. During the outer sect chaos, her white spirit sword sensed the Qinghong sword. The words righteous path carved on the heavenly repair platform were also made by the Qinghong sword. However, after her research, she learned that sword venerable Fudao was at least a cultivation beyond the divinity transformation realm, which made her a bit hesitant. She had grown up with Guan and knew his age. A void-crossing realm in his tens of years? That was unheard of in the immortal cultivation world. Moreover, Guan never admitted that he was sword venerable Fudao, so she suspected he might be a disciple of sword venerable Fudao. Regardless of the situation, Yi Lan felt that she was unworthy of her senior brother. Therefore, she rarely expressed her feelings nowadays, focusing more energy on her cultivation. When her cultivation level was raised and her senior brother wanted a Taoist friend, that would be her chance. Guan sighed. Junior sister, you're encountering cultivators of higher and higher realms now, but your own cultivation seems hard to improve. How about practicing my cultivation technique? What cultivation technique? Yi Lan asked curiously. Gu An's scale shadowless leg was already her strongest combat means, so she didn't underestimate his cultivation techniques. Perhaps this technique was passed down by sword venerable Fudao. Guan began to introduce the Taoist expansion skill, and Yi Lan listened intently. When Guan finished, Yi Lan couldn't help but ask, Senior brother, you possess so many medicinal herbs, but your cultivation hasn't improved much. Is it because of the Taoist expansion skill? Guan nodded. This is an ultimate skill. I'm only passing it on to you, so you must not tell anyone else. Hearing this, Yi Lan's heart sweetened. She hesitated. If I practice the Taoist expansion skill, will it burden you more? She understood that Guan would continuously provide her with elixirs to aid her cultivation, which would inevitably delay his own cultivation. Guan laughed. If you're worried, don't practice. Just wait until your lifespan runs out, and your senior brother will live for another few hundred years. By then, I can take several junior sisters and enjoy the bliss of having many companions. No, I'll practice, Yi Lan said, glaring. Guan immediately took out the already written Taoist expansion skill and handed it to her. After accepting the Taoist expansion skill, Yi Lan took out a black wood box from her storage bag. This is a gift prepared for you. I planned to give it after our conversation, but you gave me the cultivation technique first, which makes my sentiments seem inadequate. Guan took the blackwood box and smiled. Junior sister, what are you talking about? You've given me so many good things over the years. You are undoubtedly the best to me. The 6-layer human face tree was given by Yi Lan. Besides, she brought various medicinal herbs every time she visited Guan. Guan had also declined, but Yi Lan convinced him by repaying the elixir's kindness. Rejecting more would seem uncaring, so now the two of them exchanged gifts and were both happy about it. Upon hearing Guan's words, Yilan smiled and introduced, "This is a dark vine, probably at the 5th layer, though it's just a small section. It requires planting for a dozen or so years to fully rejuvenate. Once grown, it can guard the house and block divine sense." Guan opened it and saw a piece of something resembling black coal, with faint vitality. He wasn't disappointed. Yilan's cultivation was limited, so obtaining this remnant was already good. The previous human face tree was also just a root, now recovering vitality. Then, Yilan continued to talk about the events in the immortal cultivation world during this period. Guan listened attentively, enjoying his time. Recently, a group of mysterious cultivators emerged in the immortal cultivation world, known as 9 Nether 13 Evil. They broke into Wanin's sect, seized Wanin's sect's treasure, and left. Their strength shocked the immortal cultivation world. Besides, another major event was the ancient sky sect nurturing a holy beast sky dragon. The whole sect was invigorated, and various states discussed it, claiming the ancient sky sect was rising. The holy beast was none other than the sky dragon Guan raised. He had previously checked on the ancient sky sect, and seeing the sky dragon being well taken care of, he didn't worry. According to Yilan, the immortal cultivation world was relatively peaceful. The ephemera sect had also settled down, no longer fighting to death with the demon path. But Guan knew this was just the calm before the storm. When the great cultivators of the ephemera sect main lineage arrived, the immortal cultivation world would again be engulfed in a bloody storm. In the depths of night, the North Sea mountain range, spiritual energy began to descend, disturbing all beings once again. Guan was meditating within a barrier, enjoying the improvement in his cultivation. He had spent 3,000 years of life to reach the 9th layer of the Mahayana realm. After a short hour passed, he invested another 50,000 years of life into alchemy. Previously, he intended to improve his alchemy skills on his own, but later realized alchemy also required talent. Investing 50,000 years of life elevated his alchemy to the Taicang elixir path, greatly enhancing his comprehension of alchemy. A vast amount of knowledge surged into his mind, and he immersed himself in it. The alchemy he practiced was the basic alchemy of the supreme sect. Different sects' alchemy had differences, resulting in diverse elixir paths. The Taicang elixir path included a spell named Taicang True Fire, helping better in alchemy and capable of killing enemies. These 50,000 years of life were well spent. When Guan woke up, he lifted his right hand, and a blue flame ignited on his fingertip, a smile appearing on his lips. He then looked at his attribute panel, still having 490,000 years of life, feeling exceedingly wealthy. He closed the lifespan barrier and stood up, preparing to leave. His gaze suddenly fell on the nearby mountain wall. Because of the disturbance caused by the descending spiritual energy, the weeds in front of the mountain wall were tilted in all directions. Upon closer inspection, there was a crack from which strands of spiritual energy leaked, and this spiritual energy was unusual, not the common 5-element spiritual energy. He immediately walked over, arriving before the mountain wall, and infused his divine sense into it. Soon, his divine sense encountered a restriction. Breaking through required at least void-crossing realm cultivation. He instantly understood and didn't forcibly break the restriction. Instead, he used the 9 extremes yin-yang body, turning into a demonic shadow and stepping forward with limitless freedom step, crossing in one step. Passing through layers of restrictions, he reached a spacious underground area. This space was larger than the 8 scenic caves. In the center, there was an underground lake with a grassland about 300 meters long and 100 meters wide beside it, along with a row of old trees. Under one of the old trees stood a dilapidated wooden house. His divine sense didn't detect any cultivator or demon presence, yet the underground lake had many fish, even one 2 meters long, resembling a spirit beast. Guan walked forward and passed a stele with 4 large characters inscribed on it. Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion. The spiritual energy here was abundant, even stronger than the 8 scenic caves. He performed a lifespan detection on the row of trees. They were all 6-layer spirit trees, named heart-clearing trees. Excellent! Guan was suddenly delighted. If no one lived here, it could become his fourth Medicine Valley. The Mystic Valley, Third Medicine Valley, and Tian Valley were under others' watchful eyes. His treasures were all kept in the 8 Sina caves, but the space there was limited. Guan reached the wooden house, where there was a stone table covered in moss, with 2 books lying on it. One was a nameless book, and the other a secret book. Heaven-Cutting Divine Axe. What a domineering name. Guan picked up the nameless book and started reading. It was a testament left by the owner of the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion. The mansion owner was known as Ancestor Tian, and surprisingly, he was a mystic heart realm cultivator. Guan read on, frowning slightly. Ancestor Tian was actually a supreme elder of the Supreme Sect. After leaving the Supreme Sect, he established the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion here, intending to seek enlightenment. Later, he experienced deviation and, before his death, decided to leave the cave mansion and head towards the demon land beyond the 9 dynasties. The Heaven-Cutting Divine Axe was Ancestor Tian's ultimate skill, inherited from the Holy Land, one of the Holy Land's 9 great inheritances. Chapter 110, 9 Styles of Heaven Cutting. The breath from afar, bitterly contemplating for 800 years, swallowing countless elixirs, finally achieving mystic heart realm, but unable to escape the heart demon tribulation at the end of life. I hate. Guan recited a passage from the nameless book, furrowing his brows. The hatred of Ancestor Tian leaped off the page. It was a hatred towards the heavens. He hated that after achieving mystical heart realm, he was struck by heart demons before he could enjoy it. After reading, Guan immediately thought of the limit of lifespans. In the vast universe, it seemed like a certain fate bound all beings. The lifespan limit of Ancestor Tian might only have been enough to barely reach the unification realm, but with vast resources he forcibly achieved the mystic heart realm, yet his lifespan did not extend, ultimately facing heart demons and the calamity of death? The more Guan thought, the more plausible it seemed. For all beings cultivating to immortality, it was less a struggle against the heavens than a struggle against destiny. Guan believed that fate could certainly be broken. He himself was the best example. The lifespan limit he perceived might just be a reminder of the existence of fate. Besides his ability to seize lifespans, there must be other opportunities in this world to help break the lifespan limit. He just hadn't found them yet. Because achieving eternal life was so difficult, that's why so many people sacrificed themselves without regret. Let's see if the Taoist expansion skill worked. If it did, he could potentially use part of his lifespan to enhance the Taoist expansion skill. Guan felt hopeful, because Wuxian's lifespan far exceeded that of others in the same realm. He continued to read further, finding records of Ancestor Tian's life events, from joining the Supreme Sect to competing for the position of sect leader. It read like a novel, with the brief descriptions sparking endless imagination. After finishing the testament, he threw the book into his storage bag, then picked up the Heaven-Cutting Divine Axe secret book to check. He became increasingly engrossed, as if a figure wielding a great axe danced in his pupils. The Heaven-Cutting Divine Axe had 9 forms in total: severing life, severing demons, severing ghosts, severing mountains, severing seas, severing magic, severing immortals, severing gods, severing heaven. It sounded domineering, but he wondered if it could really sever immortals and heavens. The 9 forms were not 9 levels but 9 techniques. Ancestor Tian had mastered all 9 forms and faced no adversary before his deviation. He swept through the 9 realms of the immortal cultivation world, establishing the Supreme Sect's renown. However, he didn't leave the Heaven-Cutting Divine Axe at the Supreme Sect because it was a Holy Land's legacy, not to be passed on to others. If discovered by the Holy Land, his cultivation level would be abolished, a point specially noted in his testament. After skimming through, Guan threw the secret book into the storage bag. He turned and walked into the dilapidated wooden house. Everything inside was old and worn, the floor covered in weeds, with an axe standing in the center, covered in dust. He walked over to the axe and blew gently, causing the dust to instantly vanish, revealing a black axe. The Heaven-Cutting Axe, a supreme-grade magic artifact, also forged from North Sea nether iron, and it was millions of years old, heavier and capable of withstanding more spiritual power than Li Ya's North Sea heavy sword. Guan grasped the heaven-cutting axe, raising an eyebrow. It was heavy. Despite being a Mahayana cultivator and having cultivated the primordial Rui skill with immense chi force, even he could feel the weight, showing just how heavy this heaven-cutting axe was. There was no need to use the techniques of the heaven-cutting divine axe. It felt like just smashing someone with it could crush them. When Guan lifted the heaven-cutting axe, it seemed light in his serious grip. He wielded it with ease. He considered putting this treasure into the storage bag, but it was repelled by the bag's spatial restriction. It wouldn't fit. Interesting. Guan immediately put down the heaven-cutting axe and examined the surroundings, finding nothing else of value in the house. Immediately, he stepped outside the mystic heaven cave mansion, sealing the crack on the mountain wall. Being a 5 elements treasure body now, he had perfect earth attribute aptitude, capable of condensing spiritual power into earth. After completely sealing the crack, Guan felt relieved. From now on, this would be his cave mansion. Guan felt joyful, his lips curved upwards, stepping into the mystic heaven cave mansion once again. Preparing the land. Late autumn, in the 3rd Medicine Valley, the disciples were sweeping fallen leaves. Lu Lingjun suddenly looked towards the sky, seeing a figure swiftly approaching. She frowned slightly, secretly startled. 9th level of the unification realm. The newcomer was LV Baiyin. LV Baiyin quickly arrived at the pavilion where Guan lived, then stepped onto the stairs. Lu Lingjun withdrew her gaze, curious about the person's identity. Despite many visits to the 3rd Medicine Valley, LV Baiyin had never revealed his true identity. When talking to an Hao and an Xen, he was always said to be a senior of the sect. Entering the house, LV Baiyin closed the door and set a restriction, making it impossible to eavesdrop. Guan put down the book in his hand and smiled. "Sect leader, why are you here?" He stood up to make tea. "No need to bother, sit down, let's chat." LV Baiyin waved his hand, walked to the table, raised his hand to pull over a chair, and sat down. Guan followed and sat down, asking, "What do you want to chat about?" "What could I chat with you about?" "Not about taking in disciples again." Guan secretly complained, as a dignified Mahayan-level cultivator, it was impossible for him to take a master. "Let's talk about Li Xiandao." LV Baiyin said, staring at Guan. Guan asked in surprise, "What happened to him?" Crown Prince Li Dai had his golden core dug out, his nascent soul and cultivation level were abolished, and a void-crossing realm cultivator protecting him also perished. LV Baishan's words moved Guan. He was genuinely a bit surprised. Right after the Supreme Sect's law enforcement hall left, Li Xiandao made a move? Just entering the void-crossing realm and able to kill someone at the same level? Quite impressive. Methods of void-crossing realm great cultivators varied widely, even facing the same level. Escaping should not be difficult. Don't look at Guan easily killing void-crossing realm cultivators. He did so by suppressing his higher realm to a lower realm, giving enemies no time to escape. LV Baiyin asked, "Does Li Xiandao have a void-crossing realm cultivator beside him?" Guan helplessly said, "If there is, I can't see it either." LV Baiyin paused, finding it reasonable, his expression easing. With the Crown Prince dead, Supreme Sect can only support Leah. The throne must be held by a prince of the Supreme Sect. Unfortunately, Leah has been away for years. LV Baiyin sighed. "If not for the impending attack by the Ephemera Sect, I would have already abolished Li Xiandao." Guan asked curiously, "Why abolish him?" LV Baiyin said, "He has been emperor for nearly 200 years. Taicang world is in turmoil, plagued by evil spirits, with widespread grievances. Changing the emperor to worship the heavens might reverse the chi fortune, yet he has roped in several elders from the Hall of Elders, making it difficult for me to force him to abdicate, and by the time I recovered my cultivation level, the Ephemera Sect arrived. It's been endless trouble." Speaking of the Ephemera Sect, he grew visibly annoyed. Guan couldn't tell if he truly cared about the people, or simply disliked Li Xiandao. Both provided high-rank medical herbs to Guan, so he couldn't take sides and could only watch their struggle from the sidelines. Li Xiandao indeed had great means, keeping a cultivator at the 9th level of the unification realm hesitant to act. while rapidly growing. If LV Baiyan knew Li Xiandao was already at the void-crossing realm, he would probably go to kill Li Xiandao now. LV Baiyan began to discuss the ephemera sect, revealing that the Venerable Pavilion had collected numerous clues about the sect. Shockingly, there were multiple spies from the ephemera sect within the Hall of Elders. This greatly incensed LV Baiyan, having just cleared out a batch of Demon Path spies years ago. He never expected there to be this most hated ephemera sect spies left. I received intelligence that the ephemera sect hierarch Zhong Liang died, killed by someone unknown, and now the ephemera sect is behaving quietly, awaiting the arrival of head lineage cultivators, suspecting I killed Zhong Liang. Laughable, I suspect internal conflict among themselves. LV Baiyan sneered. Guan curiously asked, why are the ephemera sect and demon path battles concentrated in the North Sea Mountain? LV Baiyan replied, because most ephemera sect high-level members are in the North Sea Mountain, seeking a fortuitous opportunity related to our sect. What opportunity? We had a supreme elder 1,000 years ago who attained path enlightenment in the North Sea Mountain, surpassing the unification realm, and then disappeared. However, legends noted that he left behind the sect's supreme treasure, the heaven-cutting axe, which cannot be placed into storage Dharma artifacts, involved in a significant legacy the ephemera sect has been seeking. As expected, Guan was secretly pleased. After years of searching, the ephemera sect still hadn't found it, yet he stumbled upon it unintentionally. It seemed suppressing spiritual energy was not without benefits. The heaven-cutting axe is not simple. It is said to be related to the Holy Land. In 3,000 years, only that Supreme Elder had inherited such a high-level legacy from the Holy Land. He was also my martial master. LV Baiyan said with emotion. Ancestor Tian was indeed extraordinary. Guan thought of the weight of the heaven-cutting axe, finding it reasonable. LV Baiyan clearly revered Ancestor Tian, recounting his deeds. Though he had never met Ancestor Tian, he often heard his master mention him. His master said Ancestor Tian never tasted defeat, able to carve a path through any number of enemies, even venturing south for adventures, purportedly obtaining immortal sorcery before returning to retreat. However, Guan knew Ancestor Tian never obtained immortal sorcery. He had roamed the sea for years, nearly killed by the Demon King, forced to flee back, hoping to reach Mystic Heart Realm and venture again. Unfortunately, he never succeeded before death. Guan suddenly thought of the true inheritor's outside training. He might have also gone to the sea? It was said the true inheritor was more formidable than LV Baiyan, likely reaching the Mystic Heart Realm. However, when Guan mentioned the true inheritor, LV Baiyan grew displeased, not wanting to discuss it further. Clearly, their relationship was poor. As LV Baiyan spoke, he suddenly halted. Guan felt a strong aura approaching from the north, but he feigned ignorance, as LV Baiyan was present. LV Baiyan turned, looking towards the sky outside the window, muttering, "Has it finally come?" Guan confusedly asked, "What has come?" LV Baiyan stood, saying, "Nothing, I have matters to attend to." He quickly left. Guan hurriedly rose to see him off, escorting him to the entrance. Guan noticed Lu Lingjun sensing the distant strong aura, frowning deeply. Feeling Guan's gazes, Lu Lingjun glanced at him, then resumed sweeping. Guan looked in the direction LV Baiyan left, wondering what was the origin of that aura. It didn't feel like a cultivator's aura. It had an indescribable odd feeling. Chapter 111. The Attack of the Mystic Heart. The sky was cloudless for miles, and below, a vast barren plain stretched endlessly. Cracks crisscrossed the earth, which, upon closer inspection, were canyons. In a flat expanse of this barren land, a massive plume of dark energy hovered, resembling a rift. At the base of the dark energy was a circular array platform with a diameter exceeding 3 zhang. It was engraved with complex and profound runes, and spiritual energy surged, causing them to emit a faint sheen. In front of the array platform, a group of ephemera sect cultivators stood waiting. Their numbers exceeded 1,000, and among them were Jiang Qiong and Su Han. At the forefront stood an old man in a gray robe, holding a wooden staff. His back was hunched as he gazed expectantly at the black energy in the sky. Ephemera Sect Main Branch. Jianghu watched the spatial disturbances within the dark energy, feeling very tense. Having joined the Ephemera Sect for a while, she had come to understand it deeply. The Ephemera Sect in the Nine Dynasties territory was merely a branch and could not be compared to the main branch. Suddenly, a flash of lightning burst out from the dark energy, followed by expansion, revealing an expanse of dark red sky inside, with faint billows of ominous clouds. The old man in the gray robe suddenly knelt down and loudly exclaimed, "Welcome, Lord of the Main Branch." As he knelt, the other Ephemera Sect cultivators followed suit, repeating his words in unison. The 1,000 voices combined into a deafening roar. Under everyone's gaze, a figure emerged from the dark energy, stepping out with his back towards the dark red sky. This was a man dressed in a tight purple robe, with a gold-trimmed red scarf around his waist. His robe was adorned with images of ephemera flowers, and the back was embroidered with an ephemera tree. His face was handsome, his expression aloof, and his snow-white hair was coiled under a purple jade crown set with a red gemstone that resembled a sinister eye at a glance. With his hands behind his back, he looked down at the cult, slowly saying, "Who is Elder Chi-Han?" The old man in the gray robe quickly answered, "Reporting to the Lord, that would be me." The man in the purple robe maintained his lofty stance, not deigning to descend. He calmly said, "Find someone to lead me to the Supreme Sect. The rest of you stay here and wait for the main branch to arrive." Chi-Han Elder asked excitedly, "Are more seniors from the main branch coming?" "Yes, it's time for the ephemera to bloom." The mysterious aura was too far from the Supreme Sect, beyond even the range of divine sense of those in the Mahayana realm. Xuan did not act rashly. His intuition told him that the aura was related to the main branch of the Ephemera Sect. Without knowing the strength of the main branch of the Ephemera Sect, he wouldn't act on impulse. Although from Zhong Liang and Su Shan's memories, it seemed the Ephemera Sect was waiting for great cultivators of the mystic heart realm. With Xuan's extermination of the ephemera tree, the situation might change. What if more than one great cultivator of the mystic heart realm arrived? Moreover, the Supreme Sect was deeply rooted and might not need his intervention. Perhaps the Supreme Elder would return. Leaving aside the Supreme Elder, the Ji family and Gu family also had unfathomable depths. Xuan searched the Taicang dynasty with his divine sense but couldn't find the main families of these two houses, likely hidden within minor heaven and earth realms. In this world there existed multiple minor heavens and earths, akin to innate spatial restrictions, or as one might describe using earthly terms, alternate dimensions. The day after Liu Beiyin left, the atmosphere in the Supreme Sect became tense. Numerous core formation realm and nascent soul realm cultivators flew over the third Medicine Valley towards the outer sect. Even the 9 geniuses cultivating in the Medicine Valley were summoned, bidding farewell to Xuan. Every disciple had their own identity token, and the Supreme Sect could use these tokens to transmit orders to everyone, including those on missions outside. Xuan approached Xuan nervously and asked, "Senior brother, what happened this time? Could it be the Ephemera Sect attacking?" Every time he visited the Outer Gate City, he heard other disciples discussing the Ephemera Sect. The Ephemera Sect had swept through the demon paths undefeated and had caused significant trouble for the Supreme Sect 200 years ago, making all disciples feel threatened. "I don't know. Don't overthink it. Our task is to grow medicinal herbs. If a battle truly breaks out, we wouldn't be of much use anyway. Trust in the sect." Xuan reassured him. Xuan found this reasonable but still couldn't stop his thoughts from drifting to the outer sect. Xuan turned and left to harvest the matured herbs. Even if the sky were to fall, the Supreme Sect would bear it first. Harvesting herbs and flowers was the top priority. An ancient hour later, Xuan returned to the pavilion and drew the Qinghong sword, starting to swing it. He rarely practiced swordsmanship, attracting the attention of many disciples who thought he sensed the crisis and followed his example, beginning to practice their own spells. Lu Lingjun also glanced at Xuan, shaking her head involuntarily. Xuan's sword moves were very strange, looking more like axe techniques than swordsmanship to her. Perhaps the Valley Master was just soothing his nervous emotions. After watching for a bit, Lu Lingjun turned and walked toward a distant mountain to get a better view of the outer sect and understand the situation more clearly. Guan wasn't truly practicing swordsmanship but rather the heaven-cutting divine axe technique. He purposefully used a sword to avoid drawing attention, as the heaven-cutting divine axe hadn't left any legacy in the supreme sect, so no one knew how to use it. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. On this day, after settling matters at Mystic Valley, Guan went to the Third Medicine Valley to continue harvesting herbs. The Third Medicine Valley covered an area of 100 miles, with so many herbs that some matured every day. Guan would leave some each time he harvested to ensure a stable source of lifespan income. The herbs didn't lose their effectiveness for several months after maturing. After gaining 5,000 years of lifespan, Guan had a servant disciple deliver the herbs to the storage building and then sought out Lu Lingjun. "I plan to visit the outer sect. Do you want to come?" Guan asked. Lu Lingjun had previously mentioned she wanted to join him on his next trip to the outer sect. Of course, a deeper reason was that he wanted to bring another powerful ally to the supreme sect. Lu Lingjun agreed immediately, nodding as she had been eager to see the commotion after 3 days of watching. Thus, Guan and Lu Lingjun headed to the outer sect. Upon arrival, Guan agreed to meet Lu Lingjun at the heavenly repair platform in the evening and then went his own way. "So considerate," Lu Lingjun thought as she watched Guan's back. She turned to look at the sky above the South City Gate, where numerous great cultivators hovered. Each one had a large banner behind them, numbering 1,000, surrounding the entire outer sect city. The cultivation level of these people was at least nascent soul realm. One city of the outer sect boasted so many high-level cultivators. Lu Lingjun had used her divine sense to check the other cities, finding similar situations, marveling at the depth of the supreme sect's power. With the current strength displayed by the supreme sect, she believed it could easily sweep through the mortal world she came from. Meanwhile, Guan found Jin Qin of the Law Enforcement Hall. The Law Enforcement Hall hadn't been assigned combat duties but was patrolling the city to prevent ephemera sect cultivators from infiltrating. Guan pulled Jin Qin to the side of the street, retrieved a Taoist expansion skill from his storage bag, and handed it to her, saying, "Keep this well and train hard with it when you return. Don't tell anyone, not even Marshal Uncle Yi." Jin Qin glanced at it and saw it was a cultivation technique, instantly excited and nodding quickly. She knew Guan's status in the inner sect with Medicine Valley was far above hers, and whatever he gave her would be exceptional. She had been struggling to advance her cultivation level for years despite practicing Jiang Qiong's technique. After a brief chat, the two parted ways. Guan didn't seek out Yilan as she was attending an outer sect meeting at the Great Elder's residence. The entire Supreme Sect was on high alert for battle. Guan chose this day to visit the outer sect city because he sensed an aura exceeding the unification realm entering the Taicang dynasty, approaching the Supreme Sect. Mystic Heart Realm. The pace was not fast as someone was guiding, or perhaps he was exerting pressure on the Supreme Sect, flaunting his powerful aura. Even Divinity Transformation Realm and Void Crossing Realm cultivators could feel it, which explained the tense atmosphere of the Supreme Sect. Guan didn't plan to take action rashly, he wanted to gauge the sect's resilience. Not every enemy should rely on him to resolve. While killing cultivators could grant him lifespan, it wasn't much different from harvesting herbs in value, so he wasn't eager for combat. Of course, if many enemies showed up, he wouldn't mind claiming some kills. Guan walked to the heavenly repair platform, standing behind the ghost mother of ephemera, pretending to sense the sword intent on the platform. "Gu Xiaoyu, what brings you here?" a voice called out, and the mad swordsman of Great Yu, Han Ming, approached with a smile. He walked behind the ghost mother of ephemera, exchanging pleasantries with Guan. The ghost mother of ephemera remained unresponsive, her eyes closed. Despite the impending battle, there were still hundreds of cultivators on the platform seeking enlightenment. Han Ming, at the 5th level of the Void Crossing Realm, didn't realize the female disciple meditating beside him was an old monster of the 2nd level of the Unification Realm. After exchanging a few polite words, Guan curiously asked, "With the ephemera sect attacking, why haven't you left? Aren't you afraid of getting caught in the crossfire?" "The ephemera sect is nothing. They have lost to the Supreme Sect before and will likely lose again. The Supreme Sect has too many great cultivators and old monsters. You can watch the battle and learn more about the sect's strength," Han Ming chuckled. His words piqued Guan's curiosity even more, leading him to ask about the powerful cultivators in the Supreme Sect. Han Ming shared what he knew, drawing the attention of nearby disciples who couldn't resist eavesdropping. 90% of the Supreme Sect disciples were unaware of the full extent of the sect's strength due to its enormity. The ghost mother of ephemera seemed disturbed, stood up and prepared to move. Guan deliberately turned his back on her, pretending to retreat naturally, and bumped into her. Realizing he had bumped into someone, Guan immediately apologized. "Miss, I'm sorry." The ghost mother of ephemera frowned but shook her head slightly, saying nothing. She walked past Guan. "Stop." Han Ming's voice suddenly rang out, his gaze fixed on the ghost mother of ephemera. The ghost mother of ephemera halted. Curious looks surrounded them as Han Ming was a prominent figure on the heavenly repair platform, and his actions drew attention. Guan quickly said, "It's my fault, I accidentally bumped into her." Han Ming ignored Guan, his gaze locked on the ghost mother's back, speaking coldly, "Who, exactly, are you? Although you hid it well, I sensed a momentary release of your aura. You're not human, you're a ghost, aren't you?" "A ghost?" The words caused the surrounding disciples to rise, some even drawing their magic artifacts. Guan looked at the ghost mother of ephemera in shock and stepped aside. The ghost mother turned, her gaze ignoring Guan, coldly fixed on Han Ming. "You're not a member of the Supreme Sect, so why interfere?" Chapter 112. Unparalleled Battle, Path Enlightenment. In the painting, I received guidance from Sword Venerable Fudao, so naturally, I must repay the favor. Besides, the Supreme Sect has treated me well these past years. Han Ming responded firmly, taking out the sword box from his back, ready to fight. At that moment, 3 figures appeared out of thin air around the ghost mother of ephemera. All 3 were great cultivators of the void-crossing realm, specifically stationed at the heavenly repair platform. The ghost mother of ephemera, at the unification realm, did not fear them. She shook her head slightly, muttering to herself, "So troublesome, but it's almost enough." She suddenly transformed into a wisp of ghostly chi, disappearing into thin air. The 3 great cultivators of the void-crossing realm followed, vanishing from their original spot. Guan could sense them moving towards the outer sect, chasing her into the distance. Han Ming did not pursue. Revealing the ghost mother of ephemera's identity was already good enough. The chase was the Supreme Sect's responsibility. He turned to look at the still frightened Guan and comforted him. "Don't worry, that ghost should not come back after escaping." Guan nodded, but could not help glancing around, as if afraid there were other ghosts nearby. One must fully commit to acting. Han Ming walked up to him, patted his shoulder, and pulled him over to Xuan, then began recounting his experiences of slaying demons and ghosts. Guan thought it was bad luck. The act had gone too far, and it was hard to leave now. He had no choice but to listen to Han Ming's bragging. Xuan, who rarely saw Guan, was in a good mood. The two whispered, causing Han Ming to angrily growl. The matter of the ghost mother of ephemera was just an interlude. Guan had been waiting for his lifespan warning. As long as an enemy warning appeared, the ghost mother of ephemera would not live past today. Fortunately, no warning appeared, indicating the ghost mother did not suspect him. Of course, it was also possible that the ghost mother of ephemera had no malicious intent for coming to the Supreme Sect. She had been here for years without causing trouble. She hadn't participated in the chaos caused by the underworld demon emperor before. Now, the great cultivator of the mystic heart realm from the ephemera sect was approaching. If the ghost mother of ephemera had any ill intent, she could have started a massacre and cooperated with that mystic heart realm cultivator. Could it be that the ghost mother of ephemera had no connection with the ephemera sect? Guan, while listening to Han Ming brag, thought silently. Under the blue sky, the autumn landscape of withered yellow covered the mountains and rivers. On each peak stood various figures. LV Baitin and Tian were there too. There were 32 people, all great cultivators of the supreme sect, each exuding an extraordinary aura. Tian stood beside LV Baitin, asking in a low voice, "Has the opponent surpassed the unification realm?" LV Baitin looked into the distance with a serious expression, stating, "He must have surpassed it. His aura is far beyond mine, vast and boundless, and it doesn't seem like a recent breakthrough." Mystic Heart Realm. Tian's face darkened. In the distance, other great cultivators of the supreme sect could also hear LV Baitin's words. Their expressions were equally heavy, but no one was afraid. So what if he's in the Mystic Heart Realm? With so many of us in the unification realm joining forces, we may still be able to fight. A short elder snorted coldly. Exactly what is there to fear? The Ji family also has great cultivators rushing over. The ephemera sect will meet their demise no matter how many they send. It's a pity that our Gu family ancestors' whereabouts are unknown. Otherwise, inviting him would eliminate any risk. Haha, ancestors are like that, they can't be summoned so easily. True, among the supreme elderly of the sect, some might be in the Mystic Heart Realm. However, those who have reached that stage seek immortal fate and cherish their remaining years without staying here. The other great cultivators of the unification realm discussed animatedly. Most of them spent many years in seclusion or training outside. It was a rare reunion for these individuals who seldom showed up in the supreme sect. LV Baitin took out a bottle of elixir from his storage ring and directly poured it into his mouth. Immediately, his complexion began to recover, with wisps of burning heat emanating from his body. Other great cultivators also took out elixirs and magic artifacts. Some even started setting up formations. The world grew silent, anticipating the outbreak of the grand battle. So many great cultivators in the unification realm, truly befitting a 1,000-year-old great sect. A light chuckle echoed through the sky, causing everyone's expressions to change. This voice belonged to the man in the purple robe from the main lineage of the ephemera sect. Though he had not yet arrived, his laughter brought immense pressure to the great cultivators of the unification realm. In the outer gate city, Xuan descended from the heavenly repair platform, letting out a long breath. Han Ming is too damn boastful. Had Xuan not mentioned urgent business, he would still be stuck listening to Han Ming's legendary tales. Even Xuan, who enjoyed chatting, couldn't handle it. Primarily because with Han Ming, it was all one-sided talking with no interesting content. After leaving the heavenly repair platform, Xuan planned to find an inn in the city to drink and then watch the battle. After taking a few steps, deafening roars echoed from the horizon. 5 breaths later, a fierce wind surged, causing the outer gate's formation to manifest. Xuan quickened his pace, afraid of missing the fight. He jogged to his usual inn, ordered wine and meat from the waiter. Due to the supreme sect preparing for battle, there were only 2 or 3 patrons in the inn, each sitting at separate tables. Xuan sat by the window, his gaze directed to the horizon as his divine sense stretched across the distance to lock onto the battlefield. 32 great cultivators of the unification realm besieged a Mystic Heart Realm cultivator. The scene was incredibly magnificent, earth-shaking, and within thousands of miles, the forests quickly turned to ruins. Xuan began to enjoy the visual feast, a battle rarely seen in hundreds of years. Even if he chose to fight, he hardly got to witness such battles. If he couldn't easily crush the opponent, he wouldn't bother fighting. The Mystic Heart Realm was undoubtedly formidable, far beyond the unification realm. That purple-robed man single-handedly suppressed the 32 great cultivators of the supreme sect with unrivaled dominance. Xuan noticed a familiar figure atop a mountain 1,000 miles away from the battlefield. Xuan. It was Xuan who led the purple-robed man. Xuan had sensed this earlier and now felt dissatisfied seeing that Xuan hadn't fled. This guy isn't afraid of being shattered. Having saved Xuan before, Xuan decided not to save him again in the future. A master like him had done enough. Even if Xuan were to be killed today, he wouldn't intervene. Then, Guan focused solely on the battle. Shortly after, a waiter started serving wine and dishes. Guan had just taken 2 sips when a voice remarked, "You're actually drinking here." Shenzhen. Guan ignored her. Lately, Shenzhen's supreme secret records were getting so exaggerated that even he couldn't resist reading them. It tarnished Guan's name. Undoubtedly, in the supreme sect, there must be other people named Guan, likely resenting Shenzhen intensely. Shenzhen sat directly across from him, wearing a veil that attracted even more attention. The inn's patrons couldn't help but glance at her. A grand battle is about to start, and this one might be fiercer than the previous righteous demonic battle. I plan to paint the entire process. Why don't we do it together? Let me tell you, I recently gained some insights from my past paintings, so I might achieve enlightenment through my art. Shenzhen spoke with a tone of pride when mentioning her path enlightenment. She had specifically sought out Guan, tracking him from the 3rd Medicine Valley to this place. Guan replied, "Forget it, I won't participate. It's too dangerous. With my level of cultivation, I'd easily be reduced to ashes near the battlefield." "No worries, I'll protect you." "What is your cultivation level? Can you even protect me?" "At least I'm in the core formation realm." Core formation realm in such a battlefield is just cannon fodder. When hit by the battle's aftershocks, you'd only convulse a bit longer than I would. Sign it? Okay, that makes some sense. Shenzhen glared before pouring herself a bowl of wine. She gazed into the distance, her expression growing more alarmed with the intensifying battle aura. What kind of fight could cause such a huge commotion? Guan enjoyed the spectacle with his divine sense. LV Baitin was indeed strong, clearly on a different level from other great cultivators. Tian was also impressive, with his Qilin step nearly perfected, being one of the few cultivators able to approach the purple-robed man. However, the fight had barely begun, yet most Supreme Sect cultivators were already injured to varying degrees. Some were even blasted to pieces, with only their primordial spirits left to form ranks from afar. The purple-robed man wielded several magic artifacts, holding a long spear imbued with immense power, effectively dominating the battlefield. Guan thought this man hadn't even used his full strength. At this rate, the Supreme Sect's side would face complete annihilation. It's no good, I have to step in. To ensure better prospects for his stay, Guan had to prevent the Supreme Sect from losing so many great cultivators, unless an enemy appeared that even he couldn't handle. In that case, he would just flee. Guan stood up and said, "Miss Shen, I need to step out for a moment. I'll come back and find you later. Stay here and don't leave." Without waiting for Shenzhen's response, Guan quickly exited the inn. Shenzhen wasn't suspicious, being more curious about the distant battle than Guan swiftly walked several streets before making sure no divine sense was locking onto him. Then, employing the limitless freedom step, he moved beyond the outer gate. After 5 steps, he entered the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion. Entering a wooden house, he picked up the heaven-cutting axe, and dark purple demonic chi began to ooze from him. 9 extremes yin-yang body. His right foot lifted, disappearing within the cave mansion. The next moment, he stood atop a mountain 1,000 miles away from the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion. Guan waved the heaven-cutting axe in his hand, recalling the techniques of the heaven-cutting divine axe in his mind. Forget it. To kill him, do I even need techniques? Guan immediately headed towards the battlefield with the heaven-cutting axe in hand. He planned to use Ancestor Xian Tian's identity to kill the enemy, ensuring the news of the Supreme Sect's ancestor returning would spread across the immortal cultivation world. By then, anyone in the 9 dynasties who wanted to oppose the Supreme Sect would have to think twice. Meanwhile, in the Taicang Dynasty, boom, mountains shattered, dust flying everywhere. Another great cultivator of the unification realm fell, his life or death unknown. In midair, Tian and 2 great cultivators from the Ji family manifested the heavenly dragon demon-suppressing form to restrain the purple-robed man. All 3 panted heavily, their spiritual power nearly exhausted. From all directions, golden dragon shadows assaulted, as the purple-robed man stood proud in the air, a golden halo hovering behind his head, radiating brilliant light. Any dragon shadow approaching within 10 feet of him was dispersed by an invisible force. The heavenly dragon demon-suppressing form is indeed a marvelous divine skill. Considering you are from the Ji family, I can spare your lives. But if you persist in being obstinate, don't blame me for disregarding the Ji family's dignity. The purple-robed man's cold voice was laced with intense killing intent, no longer retaining his previous disdainful, teasing demeanor. Chapter 113. You are not Ancestor Tian. Who are you? Facing the threat from the man in the purple robe, the three great cultivators of the Ji family remained indifferent and continued their attack, as did the other Unification Realm great cultivators from the Supreme Sect, determined to kill him here and now. The man in the purple robe snorted coldly, lifted the spear in his hand, and swept it forward. In an instant, vast demonic chi erupted, as if a black streak had been brushed across the painting of the heavens, spanning the sky. The 3G family great cultivators were sent flying, vomiting blood, their heavenly dragon demon-suppressing forms annihilated, dispersing into smoke and clouds. The three crashed into the mountains like fallen stars from beyond the sky, causing the ground to shake and dust to rise in plumes. In all directions, 8 Unification Realm great cultivators shouted in unison. 8 ancient bronze bells floated behind them, from which images of bells also emerged, enclosing a 100-mile radius. As they cultivated energy, the bell images behind them rapidly expanded, all reaching 1,000 feet in height, grand and imposing. The enormous bell images unleashed a terrifying impact, shaking the space and causing waves to surge through the sky. The man in the purple robe raised his spear to deflect, vast spiritual power erupting, forming a powerful storm around him, resisting the impact from the bell images. Whoosh! Amidst the mountains, the sound of something breaking through the air approached the man in the purple robe at an incredible speed. His pupils contracted as he swiftly dodged the attack. It was a flying sword, fast as a streak of light. Its controller was a female cultivator, her red robe fluttering wildly, long hair streaming, and her pure, beautiful face frosty, her gaze at the man in the purple robe filled with killing intent. The gold ring behind the man in the purple robe rose, emitting golden light that shattered the bell images, causing mountains within 100 miles to explode, the ground trembling. Mighty waves of fire rose from the dust, transforming into fire dragons pouncing at the man in the purple robe, who sneered disdainfully. He suddenly turned and thrust his spear. Clang! An earth-shaking collision rang out, the spear striking a 3-zhang-tall great cauldron. The cauldron, with its sides carved with rare and exotic beasts, exuded a primordial aura. LV Bayin stood atop the cauldron, unleashing a palm strike, spiritual power bursting out like a flood. The image of a mysterious Xian turtle appeared over him, roaring angrily, the terrifying palm wind simultaneously engulfing the man in the purple robe. Mystic tortoise surging wave palm. The palm wind fell from the sky, penetrating the ground as it swept upwards, scattering the dust waves in the world, as if to destroy the entire world. With a booming sound, LV Bayin and the cauldron were blown away, numerous needle-like spiritual power spikes piercing his body, his face changing dramatically. In the violent blast, the man in the purple robe stood like a deity descending to the mortal world, dominating all things. He looked at LV Bayin and sneered arrogantly, Unification Realm 9 layer, such a pity to die for this seat. Before he finished speaking, he suddenly turned his head. Not only him, but the Supreme Sect's great cultivators also seemed to sense something, all turning to look in the same direction. 1,000 miles away, atop a mountain, Xuan stood at the edge of a cliff, gazing into the distance. Noticing the sudden halt in the battle, he frowned, unable to probe into the heart of the battle with his divine sense. Could the Supreme Sect's side have already lost? Xuan frowned deeply, his mind conflicted. He didn't want to lead the way, but Elder Qi Han had chosen him. Without him, others would lead, so he had to come. In fact, he did hold resentment towards the Supreme Sect. As an outer disciple of the Supreme Sect, the Sword Sect of the Great Yu Dynasty sought to kill him, yet the Supreme Sect did not protect him, instead forcing him to cripple his cultivation, which left him disappointed. Despite his disappointment, the Supreme Sect was his first sect on his immortal cultivation path. He didn't want to see the Supreme Sect destroyed but had to accept it since he had joined the Ephemera Sect, which was the only sect in the immortal cultivation world that could accept him. As Xuan was feeling conflicted, a figure flew over his head. So fast, Xuan couldn't see who had just passed by, only sensing a flash of a purple-black shadow, as if it were an illusion. That figure was Guan. With Guan's cultivation, how could Xuan detect him? He deliberately let Xuan see him, intending to scare him away. This was his last bit of care as a master. After passing Xuan, Guan suddenly accelerated, arriving above the battlefield in one step. He stopped 100 feet away from the man in the purple robe, immediately using a lifespan detection. Golden Spirit Venerable, Mystic Heart Realm 2nd Layer 1840/4500/4600, earning 200 or 300 lifespans would be acceptable. Guan did not act immediately but allowed the man in the purple robe and the Supreme Sect's great cultivators to appraise him. Heaven-cutting axe, who are you? Golden Spirit Venerable frowned tightly, glaring at Guan, and asked in a deep voice. The Supreme Sect great cultivators all looked at Guan. Upon hearing the words heaven-cutting axe, Tian, who was covered in blood and had just flown up, couldn't help but shout in surprise, Ancestor Tian? Ancestor Tian. All the Supreme Sect great cultivators were moved, even LV Baitin, who stood on the great cauldron, looked incredulously at Ancestor Tian. Was Ancestor Tian actually still alive? Impossible, you're not Ancestor Tian, who are you? Golden Spirit Venerable stared intently at Guan, unable to see through the other's true form, made him uneasy. 8,000 years ago, your ancestor Tian, who went mad due to deviation, was killed by our sect's cultivators. His head still hangs on the 9 Nether Road. Who are you really? Have you inherited the heaven-cutting divine axe? Golden Spirit Venerable demanded, gripping his spear tightly, with golden strength energy swirling around it. Hearing about Ancestor Tian's fate, the Supreme Sect's cultivators were furious, cursing the Ephemera Sect, while Golden Spirit Venerable remained unfazed, his gaze fixed on Guan. Guan remained silent. Still can't pretend to be Ancestor Tian? Suddenly, Golden Spirit Venerable thrust his spear, golden light bursting forth, draining all color from the world. A terrifying pressure followed, causing a great windstorm, forcing the Supreme Sect great cultivators to retreat. The ruins below collapsed again, as if the apocalypse had arrived. The scorching golden light caused LV Baitin's skin to begin to ulcerate, scaring him into immediately cultivating energy. Not just him, but others too. Luckily, the golden light came quickly and disappeared just as fast. When the golden light suddenly vanished, everyone stared with wide eyes. Golden Spirit Venerable still maintained his thrusting stance, while the mysterious shadow appeared beside him, the heaven-cutting axe already at his neck. Golden Spirit Venerable's body stiffened, his face full of disbelief. How is this possible? So fast? He was in the Mystic Heart realm, yet he could not capture the other's speed. Most crucially, the unimaginable suppressive force enveloped him, preventing his spiritual power from escaping his body. This was Xuan's divine skill, Mystic Yellow Dragon Might. Mystic Yellow Dragon Might was a divine skill realized when developing the Mystic Yellow Dragon Energy skill. Combined with the suppression of Mahayana Realm 9 layer, someone as powerful as Golden Spirit Venerable in Mystic Heart Realm 2nd layer couldn't resist. The Supreme Sect's side was entirely subdued by Xuan, an unspeakable fear enveloping everyone. Regaining their senses, they noticed he used Demon Shadow Divine Skill. Could Thousand Autumn Pavilion possess such great power? Xuan held the axe in his right hand, hovering at Golden Spirit Venerable's neck. His left hand raised slowly, slapping away the hairpin atop the other's head, clutching his long hair. This made Golden Spirit Venerable look very disheveled, utterly losing his previous imposing manner. My Ephemera Sect main lineage is about to arrive. Do you really want to? Golden Spirit Venerable trembled, his eyes filled with fear. But before he finished speaking with a squelch, Xuan severed his head. Blood-splattered, golden spirit venerable's eyes wide open. As Guan wielded the heaven-cutting axe, a terrifying gust of wind swept across dozens of miles, blowing the dust explosively along the way. Golden Spirit Venerable's neck began to burn with blue flames, igniting his head and neck from both ends. Golden Spirit Venerable's voice became heavy and hoarse, his primordial spirit desperately trying to emerge, but it couldn't. With a hiss, Guan let go, taking Golden Spirit Venerable's storage bracelet, then watched the blue flames consume him. In less than 5 breaths, with his spiritual power dispersed, Golden Spirit Venerable was reduced to ashes, leaving only a heart suspended in the air, still beating. Mystic Heart. Guan grabbed the Mystic Heart, tossing it into his storage bag. He turned to leave. Wait, who are you really? Are you here to help us, or do you hold a grudge against the Ephemera sect? If it's the latter, why not join forces? The 9 Nether Road has already opened, the real catastrophe is just beginning, we must unite. Tian shouted urgently. Others also looked at Guan, nervous and expectant. Guan remained silent but released his immense sword intent. The moment the sword intent was released, the sky changed color. In the distance, shaking flowers, trees, and grasses all froze. Fu Dao, an old man trembled, his face showing delight. Before he could finish, Guan disappeared in a single step. Tian stood dazed, falling into a trance. Sword Venerable Fu Dao had easily slain the Golden Spirit Venerable. He remembered aggressively pursuing Sword Venerable Fu Dao once. His heart was filled with shame and fear. Fortunately, he was one of their own, otherwise he would have perished. At the same time, unprecedented curiosity surged in his heart. Who was Sword Venerable Fu Dao? What was his status in the Supreme Sect? Outer Gate City. In an inn, Xinzhen was drinking, not long after Guan had left. Suddenly, powerful auras erupted within the city, causing it to tremble. A battle quickly broke out, startling the other disciples in the inn into leaving. Shenzhen looked up, glancing out the window. Above the heavenly repair platform, 2 cultivators were battling fiercely, the momentum growing. More Supreme Sect disciples landed on the rooftops, forming lines to protect the buildings. It's getting chaotic, interesting. Seeing the chaos in the outer sect, Shenzhen wasn't alarmed. Instead, he watched with interest. After a while, Guan rushed in anxiously asking, "They're all fighting, why aren't you hiding?" The Ephemera sect spies hidden in the Supreme Sect started causing trouble, thinking Golden Spirit Venerable had finished the battle, not knowing he was dead. From here, the Supreme Sect could handle it, so Guan only feigned panic. Shenzhen took out pen and paper, smiling, "Let's draw together. Whoever draws better, if you can satisfy me, you can have any medicinal herbs you want." Chapter 114 Ephemera Gathering, Path Enlightenment. Guan was not swayed by Shenzhen's words. Drawing someone's battle process was too offensive, and he was not lacking in high-rank medicinal herbs at present. Unless Shenzhen offered him a 7th-order medicinal grass, he would remain uninterested. Shenzhen came from the Daotian sect of the Great Yu Dynasty, an extremely distant place. Even conveying a single message would take an indeterminate amount of time. Guan said, "The whole city is in chaos, how can I be in the mood to paint, Miss Shen? We should find a place to hide to avoid." Suddenly, a thunderous noise interrupted Guan's words. The entire inn shook violently, and dust surged in from the windows, engulfing the 2 of them. Shenzhen quickly wrapped her arm around Guan's waist and rushed out of the inn, arriving at the back courtyard. Guan tried to free himself from her grip, but she held him tightly. With a serious look in her eyes, she looked towards the back of the inn and whispered, "Don't move." Guan had no choice. Did she really think she could protect him, a great cultivator of the 9th layer of the Mahayana realm? Shenzhen frowned and took a flute from her storage bag with her left hand. Following her gaze, a figure flew out from the dust on the other side of the inn. Guan recognized him. It was Zhang Hong, an inner sect disciple who often meditated at the heavenly repair platform. Guan always saw him whenever he visited the platform. Unexpectedly, Zhang Hong turned out to be a spy from the Ephemera sect. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Zhang Hong glanced at Guan and Xinzhen and immediately swung his sword at them. A streak of sword chi broke through the roof and charged towards them. The sword chi was too fast, so fast that Xinzhen could only instinctively raise her flute to block it. Bang! The sword chi exploded, collapsing the entire inn and raising clouds of dust. Zhang Hong leaped up and swiftly fled, while numerous figures pursued him relentlessly from behind. All around, the entire outer gate city was in a chaotic battle. Even the great elder LV Songhan was fighting, while the city protection array in the sky twisted violently, on the verge of breaking apart. As the sword chi dissipated, Xinzhen pulled Guan out. Both were in a disheveled state. "Miss Shen, are you all right?" Guan asked with concern, though he could see that Xinzhen's injuries were not life-threatening. Zhang Hong was at the first layer of the nascent soul realm. Although Xinzhen had blocked his sword chi, she had suffered internal injuries. Being able to block a sword from a nascent soul realm cultivator with a core formation realm cultivation level, Xinzhen indeed had some skills. Blood dripped from her chin beneath her veil. She maintained her composure and said calmly, "I am the holy daughter of the Daolan sect. How could a nameless person harm me? Let's find a place to hide first." She let go of her right hand and then quickly walked ahead, with Guan following closely behind. The entire city was in battle. The two dared not fly and had to traverse the streets on foot. Fortunately, they encountered disciples from the law enforcement hall who led them to an underground palace to take refuge. The underground palace was extensive, sheltering many disciples, most of whom were servant disciples. Xinzhen found a place to sit cross-legged, took out a bottle of elixir from her storage bag, and began to cultivate and heal after consuming it. Guan did not disturb her. He scanned the underground palace, and after confirming there were no abnormalities, he also sat down and closed his eyes to observe the world with his divine sense. The entire supreme sect was in turmoil, not just the outer gate city. Battles raged in all the cities. LV Baidian and others, sensing the unrest in the supreme sect, were all hurrying back. Without the support of the Golden Spirit Venerable, the supreme sect would surely overcome this internal conflict, albeit with some casualties in the process. Gu's divine sense focused mainly on the Third Medicine Valley and the Mystic Valley. The Mystic Valley, located outside the outer gate, remained unthreatened since the Ephemera sect spies were causing chaos within the supreme sect. The Third Medicine Valley was under protection, with Gu Yu leading a group of cultivators to guard it. Fierce battles had already erupted. As long as the medicinal herbs remained untouched, Guan was not inclined to intervene. The supreme sect needed this trial by fire. Time passed by. As Unification Realm great cultivators returned, skirmishes in the cities quickly subsided. In less than 30 minutes, there was no more fighting in the outer gate city where Guan was located. A figure emerged from the tunnel, shouting joyfully, "The battle is over, everyone can come out." Hearing this, the disciples smiled, stood up, and helped each other out. Xinzhen stood up as well. Looking at Guan, she said, "Why aren't you helping me? Look at the others." Guan laughed, "I don't think you're that seriously injured. Once we return to the Medicine Valley, you can pick a batch of medicinal herbs as a reward for protecting me just now." Xinzhen smiled but did not respond and walked towards the crowd with Guan. After leaving the underground palace, Guan reached the street. He looked up to see the sky shrouded in dark clouds, with fire dragons formed by spiritual power swirling majestically, appearing as if divine beings were protecting the city. Guan saw a figure of a Unification Realm great cultivator hovering thousands of feet in the air. During the earlier battle with the Golden Spirit Venerable, this person had looked quite haggard. Now, however, he seemed invincible and overbearing. Xinzhen gazed upwards as well. After confirming the battle had truly ended, she said to Guan, "I need to return. You should also go back soon." With that, she turned and left. She tried to appear relaxed, but once out of Guan's sight, he noticed she suddenly sped up. Xinzhen's injuries would likely require months of rest to fully recover. Guan began to stroll through the city. Wherever he passed, he saw many buildings damaged, with injured disciples coming and going, inspecting the city. Guan sensed the presence of Zhen Qin and Yi Lan, both uninjured, so he did not seek them out. The mysterious aura he had felt a few days ago was still there. As it came from too far away within the Taicang dynasty, Guan could not discern its origin. He speculated it might be related to the Nine Nether Road. Before dying, the Golden Spirit Venerable had said that the main lineage of the Ephemera sect was about to arrive, indicating that this calamity had just begun. More Mystic Heart Realm great cultivators were likely to appear in the future. It truly was a troublesome time. Guan mused, his gaze suddenly drawn to a distant figure. A disciple was walking among the crowd. He looked unremarkable in both appearance and cultivation level, and few people paid attention to him as he walked along the street. Guan was drawn to him because there was an indescribable aura about him that felt somewhat familiar. Time for a lifespan detection. Wuxia, Foundation Establishment Realm 2nd Layer 63/280/310. Such a lifespan was not outstanding in the outer gate. Guan thought as he looked at Wuxia, soon understanding why the aura felt familiar. Path Enlightenment. The other party was in Path Enlightenment. No wonder he seemed somewhat dazed while walking the streets. Guan became interested and observed Wuxia closely, wanting to see the state of Path Enlightenment from the perspective of an onlooker. He had undergone Path Enlightenment before. After that experience, he was unsure of the specific changes that had occurred, as he often used lifespan to enhance himself, which could obscure any transformations. He could not discern whether the improvements came from his own powers or the lifespan evolution. Guan began to follow Wuxia, maintaining a distance of several feet. As they walked down various streets, Guan suddenly felt Wuxia's aura surge. This surge was not an elevation in his cultivation level but rather another profound change. He instinctively used lifespan detection again. Wuxia, Foundation Establishment Realm 2nd Layer 63/280/340. His maximum lifespan had increased by 30 years. This was the first time Guan had seen someone's maximum lifespan increase. Was this the transformation brought by Path Enlightenment? No wonder Han Ming claimed that after Path Enlightenment, one Sword Dao advanced rapidly. It seemed even aptitude and comprehension improved. Guan was secretly astonished, growing more interested in Wuxia. In the wasteland, over 1,000 Ephemera sect cultivators gathered in front of an array platform, whispering among themselves. Their gazes frequently turned to the black rift on the array platform. The black aura had disappeared, but a black space rift remained in the sky, reflecting a dark red sky, like the entrance to an exotic world. Elder Qi Han sat in the front, frowning. For some reason, he suddenly felt uneasy. He tried to calm down and closed his eyes to cultivate. The sun set and the moon rose. A night passed. In the early morning, a sound of footsteps appeared on the array platform, startling Elder Qi Han to open his eyes. Not only him, but many cultivators instinctively opened their eyes to look. The Golden Spirit Venerable is dead. Summon all Ephemera sect members to gather here. A cold voice resonated in everyone's ears. The speaker was a woman in black, her face masked, with an ephemera pattern on it. Her words caused an uproar among the Ephemera sect members. They knew the Golden Spirit Venerable was the title of the man in a purple robe they had seen earlier. How could such a powerful figure have died within a few days? Was the Supreme Sect truly so formidable? Jiang Qiong in the crowd also frowned, shocked by the strength of the Supreme Sect. Elder Qi Han's expression changed dramatically, but he did not hesitate. He stood up and issued orders to gather the Ephemera Sect. At that moment, far away in the Supreme Sect, Lu Lingjun was equally astounded. The news of Sword Venerable Fudao slaying the Ephemera Sect demon had spread throughout the sect, with disciples everywhere celebrating this feat. Inner sect disciples even came to the Third Medicine Valley, loudly proclaiming this achievement, inspiring excitement among the valley's disciples, who resumed discussions about Sword Venerable Fudao's prowess. Taking advantage of the situation, Guan took his leave and flew to the outer gate city. Upon entering the city, he moved quickly, turning corners until he reached a street. There, he saw Wuxia, who had enlightened, standing under an old tree, facing its trunk, lost in thought. Guan sensed he had awakened from path enlightenment and was probably organizing his thoughts. Wuxia, Foundation Establishment Realm 2nd Layer 63/280/540, his maximum lifespan had increased from 310 to 540 years, nearly doubling. Guan was very curious about what Wuxia had realized. Thinking this, Guan pretended to pass by, approached Wuxia from behind, and asked with concern, "Brother, are you all right?" Wuxia turned around hastily, looking flustered, and waved, "Nothing, I was just deep in thought about a cultivation technique and got lost in it." He then offered an embarrassed smile, clasped his hands in salute to Guan, and walked away. Guan watched his back but did not pursue, silently deciding to observe him more in the future. A maximum lifespan of 540 years was not enough to stand out in the outer gate, but he would see if Wuxia continued to enlighten further. Chapter 115. The Calamity of 9 Dynasties, Harvesting Life Span. It had been half a month since Golden Spirit Venerable's attack. Since that day, the Supreme Sect remained in a state of readiness, summoning numerous disciples, and everyday disciples could be seen flying over Mystic Valley and the Third Medicine Valley. Inside a pavilion in Mystic Valley, Guan was listening to Yilan speak about events in the Immortal Cultivation world, and she mentioned the 9 Nether Road. It said there is a road that leads directly to the underworld 9 Nether, called the 9 Nether Road. The Ephemera sect has opened the 9 Nether Road's entrance, located in the Great Zhao Dynasty's dustless wasteland. Now, cultivators from the Ephemera sect are heading to the dustless wasteland. Whether they are retreating or have other plans is unknown, but the Supreme Sect has already sent a batch of disciples to investigate. When talking about the 9 Nether Road, a trace of hope flickered in Yilan's eyes. Guan couldn't help but ask, "You seem to have a longing for the 9 Nether Road?" Yilan replied, "It said that the 9 Nether Road can cross boundless seas and reach another vast mortal world where immortal opportunities are hidden. To claim that I don't hope for it at all would be a lie. The Ephemera sect has recruited many cultivators through the 9 Nether Road, but I think going there with my qualifications would bring more disaster than fortune." She then shifted the conversation to Sword Venerable Fudao. According to information she obtained from the Law Enforcement Hall, Sword Venerable Fudao had displayed unmatched prowess throughout the sect, and it was said that without his intervention, the Supreme Sect might have faced catastrophe. While speaking, she also observed the changes in Guan's expression. Guan listened with great interest, as if Sword Venerable Fudao had nothing to do with him. An hour later, Yilan stood up to leave, as she had to return to the Law Enforcement Hall for her assigned duties. After seeing her off, Guan walked into the forest and arrived at Yang Ni's garden. Yang Ni had gone to the outer sect again today. She was still investigating the identity of Sword Venerable Fudao. Guan dared not tell her that Su Shan was dead, so he let her continue. A year from now, when Su Shan doesn't come looking for her, she should understand that she's free. Guan looked at the ground where the ephemera flower grew and carefully observed it. He could feel that the ephemera flower was nurturing a unique kind of spiritual energy, but he couldn't yet determine whether this energy was good or bad. Every cultivator who joined the ephemera sect would receive a batch of ephemera seeds. Planting ephemera flowers was also a way to establish merit. Even the sect hierarch Zhong Liang didn't know the exact use of the ephemera flower. The ephemera sect members who remained in the 9 Dynasties territory were merely puppets of the main lineage. They knew nothing but each harbored their own expectations. Guan picked an ephemera flower and then entered the 8 scenic caves, arriving before the green vine tree. He placed the ephemera flower under the tree for the green vine tree to sense. "Take it away! Take it away!" The female voice of the green vine tree echoed, soft yet anxious. Guan asked in surprise, "You are a 7th level spirit tree, are you actually afraid of a 6th level flower? Its aura is very annoying. I dislike it," the green vine tree responded intermittently. Upon hearing this, Guan raised his hand and put the ephemera flower back into his storage bag. He then sat down and summoned the storage bracelet from a distance. beginning to inventory the legacy of Golden Spirit Venerable. The 8 scenic caves contained many storage bags and rings, all spoils acquired by Guan through battles, and this was the place where he could store things best kept out of sight. However, after searching thoroughly, he didn't find any information about the ephemera flower and had to give up. But what he found instead was an elixir record, which he took out to examine carefully. He had already mastered the Taicang elixir path, his alchemy skills had reached the grandmaster level, and with an elixir recipe, he could effortlessly refine elixirs. Halfway through, his hand paused. Ephemera demon elixir? Winter eventually arrived, and snowflakes drifted down to the mortal world, continuously erasing its color. Tian Valley. Guan had just harvested a batch of medicinal herbs, successfully obtaining nearly 10,000 years of lifespan, filling him with joy. Tian Valley had special formations that prevented snow from accumulating, saving a lot of trouble. Guan instructed Sunda to move all the medicinal herbs into the storage building, then walked towards the courtyard where Luo Hun and Yi Luyun were drinking and discussing the Nine Nether Road. The Nine Nether Road has caught the attention of the cultivators from the 9 dynasties. It's said that representatives from each dynasty and sect have been sent to investigate, but the entrance to the Nine Nether Road is surrounded by ephemera sect cultivators, and they have all returned empty-handed. Luo Hun said with a frown. Yi Luyun glanced at the approaching Guan, then said to Luo Hun, "This is also a good thing, at least the Taicang dynasty doesn't have to bear the pressure of the ephemera sect alone." Luo Hun nodded and said, "The force behind the ephemera sect will definitely come through the Nine Nether Road. This will be a calamity for the 9 dynasties. Furthermore, my sources report that ephemera flowers are appearing everywhere now. When they mature, they attract demons and ghosts. It's uncertain what the ephemera sect's true purpose is." Guan sat down nearby, listening to the two discuss matters of the immortal cultivation world. He curiously asked, "Are there any evil legends about the ephemera flower?" Previously, he thought the ephemera sect was merely competing for power with the supreme sect. Now, he realized their ambitions were far greater. Without understanding the true strength of the main lineage of the ephemera sect, Guan dared not enter the Nine Nether Road. Yi Luyun frowned and said, "I have heard a legend that the ephemera flower is a flower of the underworld, symbolizing death and reincarnation. When ephemera flowers appear in the mortal world, it heralds an imminent catastrophe, causing many lives to perish." Luo Hun said, "The 9 dynasties have already issued orders to eradicate the ephemera flowers. Regardless of the ephemera sect's intentions, the widespread appearance of ephemera flowers must be stopped." Upon hearing this, Guan felt relieved. When the world is in trouble, the world should unite against it. He didn't want to bear the worry alone. Now that everyone is clearing out ephemera flowers, he might as well join in. Clearing ephemera flowers at night could earn him lifespan and save lives, benefiting in every way. Luo Hun and Yi Luyun continued discussing the ephemera sect, while Guan listened, hearing many names through their conversation. The reappearance of the Nine Nether Road in the mortal world caused a great upheaval in the immortal cultivation world of the 9 dynasties. Many great cultivators who had been in seclusion began to emerge. The ephemera sect had become the scourge of the 9 dynasties. Some ancient beings who had lived for over 1,000 years declared they would annihilate the ephemera sect. This was advantageous, as the ephemera sect becoming a common enemy might cause those who had joined it to waver and seize the opportunity to break free. As evening approached, Guan returned to Mystic Valley. He scanned the area with his divine sense and had a strange expression. Yang and I had burned all the ephemera flowers she planted, leaving ashes behind in the garden. Could it be that Yang and I had come to her senses? Guan did not ask Yang and I about it and instead went back to his room. Late at night, Guan began to sweep through the Taicang dynasty with his divine sense, searching for ephemera flowers. One sweep revealed a shocking number of ephemera flowers. How did so many ephemera flowers sprout up all of a sudden? They weren't there last month. Guan immediately vanished from his room and went to eradicate the ephemera flowers. Within 2 steps, he arrived in a forest miles away, near a village where the ephemera flowers were mostly concentrated around the vicinity. He picked an ephemera flower, only to obtain a year's lifespan. These ephemera flowers grew extremely fast, quite unnatural, likely due to some force draining their potential, leaving them with little remaining lifespan. A year is still a year. Small amounts accumulate over time. Guan began to clear the ephemera flowers. At dawn, Guan went downstairs, feeling invigorated. Last night he harvested over 40,000 years of lifespan, showing just how plentiful the ephemera flowers were. Practicing exercises with the disciples, Yang and I also arrived, though she looked listless, clearly burdened with worries. After the exercises, Yang and I approached Guan and said she was preparing to leave. "Where are you going?" Guan asked with a frown. Yang and I replied, "To handle some matters." Guan reminded her, the ephemera sect has been causing trouble recently, and the 9 dynasties are planning to jointly eliminate them. You should stay away from it. Yang and I nodded and said, "Don't worry, I have no ties with the ephemera sect." As she spoke, she stared intently at Guan. Some words were unspoken, but both of them understood the underlying meaning. 30 minutes later, Yang and I packed up and left. Guan stood by the window, watching her depart, feeling that the next time they met could be many years later. At the same time, on the distant dustless wasteland, ghostly energy filled the air, forming black clouds that covered the sky. Flocks of crows flew across the sky. Li Ye, carrying the North Sea heavy sword on his back, stood on a cliff, gazing at the vast sea of people below, frowning. He didn't expect the ephemera sect to have secretly recruited so many followers. That 9 Nether Road is very sinister, filled with immense ghostly energy and demon energy. The voice of the primordial ancestor echoed in Li Ye's ears. Li Ye looked towards the traveler of graceful crane sitting on a rock in the distance, holding a painting scroll and contemplating. No matter, when the primordial ancestor descends, they will all be wiped out in one fell swoop. Li Ye thought to himself. He now held great confidence in the mysterious demon shadow, believing the figure to be invincible in the present age. It's not that simple. No matter how powerful he is, his spiritual power will eventually deplete. Taking on the calamity of the 9 dynasties alone is almost impossible. If he were truly that formidable, he wouldn't need to practice the demon shadow divine skill of the 1000 Autumn Pavilion to conceal his identity. The primordial ancestor sighed. Li Ye felt displeased listening to this. Ever since encountering the ephemera sect, the primordial ancestor had become timid, no longer exuding the serene and profound demeanor he once had, shattering Li Ye's illusion. But recalling the primordial ancestor of Li family's admonition, Li Ye did not argue with the primordial ancestor's words. Just then, the ground began to tremble, startling Li Ye to soar into the air, whereas the traveler of graceful crane remained seated on the rock, unmoved. Li Ye looked towards the entrance of the 9 Nether Road, where he saw the array platform beneath the black cracks starting to crumble, a wooden branch breaking through the ground, followed by its trunk. The followers of the ephemera sect around the area all retreated. Under everyone's alarmed gaze, a towering tree burst from the ground, unmistakably an ephemera tree. This ephemera tree was even larger than the one Guan had eradicated, standing over 500 yards tall, its crown piercing the black clouds. The colossal ephemera tree standing behind the black crack appeared even more terrifying. Humph, they indeed planted an ephemera tree. A cold snort resounded across the heavens, chilling everyone to the core. Jianghu turned her head, seeing a brilliant sword light sweep from the horizon, cutting through the sea of clouds, unstoppable, targeting the ephemera tree. A figure appeared out of nowhere before the ephemera tree, the masked woman in black, wielding a golden staff. With a forward thrust, boundless spiritual power erupted, forcibly halting the sword light miles away, distorting the surrounding space. Chapter 116 Kindred Spirits on a snowy night, deep in the mountains. Guan squatted down, picked the last ephemeral flower from the snow, and threw it into his storage bag. He only harvested 1 more year of lifespan, but he was not dissatisfied, because this month he had already harvested nearly 500,000 years of lifespan, pushing his total lifespan over 1 million years again. It was so satisfying. After tonight, there would be no more ephemeral flowers on the surface in the Taicang dynasty. In 1 month he had picked over 1,000,000 ephemeral flowers, half of which hadn't even reached a year old, having just sprouted. If Guan didn't pick them, the cultivators of the Taicang dynasty would clear them, so he could only pick them whenever he saw them, gambling on his luck. He couldn't ignore the safety of the world and forbid others from clearing the ephemeral flowers, and he also feared the ephemera sect. He could slowly accumulate lifespan, but if the ephemera sect's plan succeeded and he had no power to resist, he would be ruined. In the dim forest, Guan stretched lazily and then walked towards the nearby city. It was almost dawn, and he planned to stroll around the city. Being cooped up in Medicine Valley all the time wasn't good. Occasionally getting out to see the scenery and the sights of the exotic realms could help him gain insights. Since he encountered Wuju's path enlightenment, Guan had been pondering enlightenment. He felt that enlightenment relied not only on opportunity but also on life experiences. The sun gradually rose. The city 100 miles away began to stir with noise, signaling the start of a new day. At noon, Guan sat in the second-floor tavern, drinking wine. He sat by the window, watching the street below, where martial arts heroes were performing their skills. Where there were people, there was the martial arts world. Even though everyone in the Taicang dynasty knew about the existence of immortal cultivation, 90% of people couldn't cultivate, which led to the birth of the martial arts world. They stood apart from the immortal cultivation world, having their own excitement and grievances. In the entire city, Guan only sensed 3 other cultivators, and like him, they were pretending to be ordinary people. The immortal cultivation world was facing the threat of the ephemera sect, with countless demons eyeing them greedily outside the 9 dynasties, while the ordinary people lived unaffected. Most of them only lived for a few decades, and by the time their lives ended, the great demon calamity might not have even arrived. This was the difference between immortals and mortals. Cultivators and mortals lived under different time rules. As Guan contemplated the difference between immortals and mortals, many emotions surged in his heart. He wanted to see if he could enter a state of enlightenment through such reflections. However, he sat there all day without entering the state of enlightenment, but he didn't feel it was a waste of time. Sitting quietly sometimes, not speaking and experiencing the countless facets of the mortal world had its own unique pleasure. Dusk settled again, and the snow that had stopped for a day began to fall once more. Guan stood up, left some silver coins, and then departed. He didn't leave the city directly but started to wander the streets, mingling with the crowds, letting the snow fall on him, immersing himself in the mortal world's hustle and bustle. Only at dawn the next day did Guan return to the valley. When he reached the 3rd Medicine Valley, he saw disciples gathered together, chattering excitedly. From a distance, he heard the disciples discussing the Supreme Elder. A Supreme Elder had returned. This news shook the entire Supreme sect. The identity of the Supreme Elder, who had lived for 1,500 years with cultivation reaching the heavens, had been revealed. At the moment, the Supreme sect was facing the threat of the ephemera sect, and the return of the Supreme Elder had greatly boosted the sect's morale. The righteous sect of the world regained its domineering aura. This Supreme Elder's title was Mystic Spring, also known as Xianquan. Guan guessed that he had returned because the Supreme Sect informed him that Ancestor Tian had been killed by the ephemera sect. After listening for a while, Guan continued to pick medicinal herbs. As he picked the herbs, he was still contemplating the insights from the past 2 days. Although he hadn't entered a state of enlightenment, his mystic heart had gained another talisman. The mystic heart could gather divine skills, and Guan at the Mahayana realm 9 layers had a divine skill brewing. Condensing divine skills depended not on cultivation level but on insights. He already had an idea, and as he continued to perfect it, the divine skill would naturally form. 3 days later, Guan arrived at the Outer Sect's book collection hall, where Elder Lu often personally received him as always. After not seeing him for several months, Guan noticed that he had aged significantly, his complexion also declining. Elder Lu, Foundation Establishment Realm 9th Layer 258/270/340, looking at the other's lifespan, Guan sighed internally. Elder Liu's cultivation level was obviously elevated by elixirs, so his lifespan was shorter than those of the same realm. Having known each other for many years, their relationship had become profound, beyond the bounds of age. Guan couldn't help but feel melancholic about his old friend's impending departure. However, he had long been prepared for this. He would eventually say goodbye to everyone around him. The path to longevity was destined to be lonely. Even if he found a way to extend the limit of lifespan in the future, it would just be an improvement. Making people immortal was incredibly difficult, and Guan couldn't transfer his lifespan to others. This anticipated loneliness didn't sadden Guan. Instead, it made him more resolute. The more so, the more he wanted to live on. He wanted to see the mortal world after 10,000 years, the splendors of 10 million years, and the vicissitudes of hundreds of millions of years. Elder Lu, this is the last volume of the Supreme Immortal Venerable. Guan took a book out of his storage bag and smiled. Elder Lu took the book and curiously asked, "I thought you would wait a few more years. How did it come out so soon?" The story needed to end, and coincidentally, it concludes with the protagonist joining forces with the people of the world to slay the demon and bring peace. Doesn't this align perfectly with the current world situation? Guan smiled. He paused for a moment and then said, "Although my qualifications are mediocre and I lack the strength to change the world, if I can inspire the people's fighting spirit, it will be a small contribution." Elder Lu did not open the book but praised, "Your books have already influenced many people. Before you, cultivators rarely read outside their practice. The name Pan and has taken on the aura of a sage." Elder Lu, "You're exaggerating." "Haha, what are you writing next?" "I don't plan to write anything for now. I will see what the future holds." Indeed, a masterpiece often comes about by chance and cannot be forced. The two chatted casually, with Elder Lu reminiscing about their first meeting. Guan listened intently and responded just as earnestly. After talking for 2 ancient hours, Elder Lu suddenly said, "Once the final volume of Supreme Immortal Venerable is arranged, I will resign from the elder position and prepare to leave the Supreme Sect to revisit my hometown. It has been 240 years since I joined the sect. I wonder if my hometown has changed." He already sensed his imminent end. People often wish to return to their roots before they die. Guan couldn't help but think of Cheng Xiandan, who also left alone before his end. "I wish Elder Lu a smooth journey." Guan smiled gently as if unaware of Elder Liu's impending end. After bidding farewell to Elder Lu, Guan went to the elixir hall. He did not enter the hall but stood in the street, looking at its sign. Because of Elder Lu, he thought of Zhu Qinglu. Zhu Qinglu, an elder of the elixir hall, was also responsible for liaising with Guan. He too did not have many years left to live. This indicated that in the coming years, Guan would continuously say goodbye to old friends. In this place, Guan entered a state of selflessness. He didn't know how much time had passed. Suddenly, Guan awoke, his vision returning, seeing a disciple standing in front of him. It was none other than Wuxia, who had previously achieved path enlightenment. "Brother, are you all right?" Wuxia asked cautiously. He had passed by and was drawn by Guan's state, suspecting that Guan had entered a state of enlightenment similar to his own. As he got closer, he realized it was the disciple he had encountered the day his own enlightenment ended. Fate was indeed wondrous. That day, this disciple witnessed his enlightenment. Today, he witnessed the disciple's enlightenment. Wuxia developed a fondness for Guan and had been guarding nearby to avoid interruption. He had stood for quite a while. When Guan suddenly opened his eyes, he thought he might have disturbed him and felt a bit uneasy. Guan had indeed entered a state of enlightenment earlier, and his mystic heart had gained another talisman. He looked at Wuxia and smiled. "I'm fine. Have we met before?" Wuxia smiled and said, "Yes, back then I was under the tree and you asked if I was all right, just like how I am asking you now." Guan cast a lifespan detection on him. Wuxia, Foundation Establishment Realm 2nd Layer 63/280/1040, how did he gain another 500 years? Had this guy recently achieved enlightenment again? Who was this person really? This was ridiculously extraordinary. Han Ming had only achieved enlightenment once in his life, yet Wuju had done it twice in 2 months? You must have entered a state of enlightenment just now. Shall we find a place to talk? Wuju invited him eagerly. Guan didn't refuse as it suited him well. Then, he followed Wuju to his private courtyard. After closing the door, they sat down to converse. Wuju became quite enthusiastic, actively sharing his experiences. He had been an orphan since childhood, brought to the supreme sect by his master. His master, an outer disciple, found him hanging on a tree while on a mission. His parents had abandoned him but didn't want him to be eaten by wild beasts, so they hung him on the tree. In the supreme sect, Wuju's spirit root qualification was mediocre, but under his master's protection, he had a good life. It wasn't until recently that his master was killed by a cultivator of the ephemera sect on a mission, news he got from his master's companion. He felt as if the sky had fallen. The very next day, the ephemera sect attacked. Watching the cultivators fight, Wuju was perplexed, not understanding why people had to fight to the death. In his confused state, he achieved enlightenment. After sharing his story, he looked at Guan and asked, "Brother Gu, what led to your enlightenment?" Guan replied, "My enlightenment was also related to life and death. An old friend I've known for decades is approaching his end." He spoke calmly, but Wuju sensed that he must have been deeply saddened. However, the reason for Guan's enlightenment made Wuju feel a deeper connection with him. "Brother Gu, don't share your enlightenment experience with others. After my enlightenment, I found that my energy absorption speed increased, and even my comprehension improved. My master always taught me to be humble and keep things to myself," Wuju said earnestly. Guan nodded, smiling inwardly. It seemed Wuju's master was someone with similar beliefs. But he thought Wuju's enlightenment wasn't simply due to sudden clarity. Enlightening twice because of his master's death? It didn't make sense. Chapter 117. Kill him, using a sword? Guan exchanged epiphanies with Wuju, talking all the way until the next morning. Both of them benefited greatly. Before parting, Wuju reminded him once again not to reveal their epiphany to others. Seeing Wuju's caution, Guan smiled and promised. Wuju watched Guan leave, a smile spreading on his face. Having lived in the Supreme Sect for so many years, Guan was his first true friend. He had always been very self-conscious and didn't dare to communicate with others much. The only one he was close to was his master, so his master's death was a great blow to him. Wuju turned back to his room to continue cultivating, while looking forward to his next exchange with Guan. Guan stayed in the city for an hour before returning to the third Medicine Valley. After inspecting the valley, he hurriedly left again. After spending a short while in Mystic Valley, he came to the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion. The Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion already had a lot of medicinal herbs planted, but it was still far from being filled. Guan planned to plant herbs above the 5th rank here, as it was his private territory, a place truly unknown to anyone. Though Jianghu and Sky Dragon knew about the 8 scenic caves, only he knew about the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion. During the planting process, he felt the presence of a battle coming from the north. The aura of the 9 Nether Road was still there, lasting for several months. The 9 dynasties continuously sent cultivators to fight, temporarily curbing the chaos caused by the ephemera sect. This was normal. If the strength of the ephemera sect far surpassed the 9 dynasties, they would have swept across them long ago. Guan did not pay attention to the distant battle and focused on planting herbs. He could stay overnight at the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion, as it was already the end of the month. If Leah wanted to contact him, he could not afford to miss it. Since Guan and Leah made the agreement, Leah didn't appear on a mountain top at the end of the month to reveal his aura, possibly due to circumstances beyond his control. Yet, Guan was not anxious. He would come to the Mystic Heaven Cave Mansion at the end of every month and use his divine sense to search for Li Ya's aura in the north. Thus, Guan finished planting all the seeds he brought and set up a formation. When night fell, he performed the 9 extremes yin-yang body, transforming into a shadow and heading north. Under the night sky, Leah, carrying the North Sea heavy sword, reached the mountaintop. He looked ahead. The mountains stretched endlessly. The night sky was covered with dark clouds, obscuring the stars and moon. How far is this place from the North Sea mountains? I wonder if the primordial ancestor can find me, Liya thought worriedly. The old ancestor's voice sounded in his mind. The great cultivators of the 9 dynasties continue to appear, yet they cannot budge that female cultivator. When the main branch of the ephemera sect arrives, it will be even more dangerous. Even if the primordial ancestor comes, he cannot turn the tide. He too acknowledged that Guwen was the primordial ancestor of the Li family, but he had no confidence in the ancestor. The primordial ancestor's cultivation level was higher than his own when he was alive, but the main branch of the ephemera sect also had such people, and not just one. After hearing this, Liya fell silent. He turned his head, spreading his divine sense, fearing that followers of the ephemera sect were tracking him. After confirming no one was following him, Liya put down the heavy sword and sat cross-legged. He placed the heavy sword on his legs, carefully stroking it, feeling the blade. He had already mastered a trace of the Taicang Divine shocking sword intent. The longer he delved into it, the more profound he found the swordsmanship. Once it was fully mastered, he would be unrivaled in his realm and even capable of cross-realm battles. The cold wind blew. Though there was no flying snow, it was still bone-chillingly cold. It was unclear how much time had passed. A figure appeared behind Liya, silently watching him. It was Guwen, using the 9 extremes yin-yang body, observing Liya's swordsmanship accomplishments. Not bad, he didn't waste the swordsmanship accomplishment he had left behind. He is here. The old ancestor's voice sounded in Liya's ear, with a complex tone. Upon hearing this, Liya opened his eyes and turned his head. As soon as he saw Guwen, he immediately stood up and saluted him with the North Sea heavy sword in hand. Now he could lift the North Sea heavy sword with one hand. Greetings, primordial ancestor. Regarding the title Liya used, Guwen couldn't bother to explain. As long as Liya didn't guess his real identity, it was fine. Tell me about the ephemera sect, Guwen said, his voice as usual with a changed tone. Liya began reporting the situation. Currently, all the followers of the ephemera sect were gathered at the entrance of the 9 Nether Road, numbering over 1 million. Every one of the ephemera sect's followers bore the ephemera seal, causing those wavering cultivators to be unable to escape. He mentioned the ephemera tree. Nearly every day, cultivators went to fight against the ephemera sect and ultimately died, becoming nutrients for the ephemera tree. Speaking of this tree, the fearless Liya's face too showed a trace of fear. Guwen wasn't concerned about these. He was only curious about the strength of the strongest person in the main branch of the ephemera sect. Unfortunately, Liya didn't know either. After talking for half a day, it was all about the battles around the ephemera tree, without mentioning the situation inside the 9 Nether Road. I wondered why you came out secretly. Turns out it was to pass on information. It seems your backer is also helpless and unable to respond to you. A contemptuous laugh echoed, startling Liya. His face turned pale. He looked behind Guwen, only to see a scholar-dressed traveler of graceful crane walking out from the forest. Guwen, with his back towards him, did not turn around. Shadow magic skill, I wonder which master from the 1000 Autumn Pavilion you are? Traveler of graceful crane asked with a smile as he took off the book box behind him, placed it in front, and began to search inside it. Before Guwen spoke, Liya anxiously shouted, Primordial ancestor, he is Traveler of graceful crane. It's him who previously captured my old ancestor's soul. He is very strong, you must not be careless. Guwen turned his head slightly, glancing at Traveler of graceful crane. Traveler of graceful crane, Unification Realm 9th Layer 1209/3020/3030 Unification Realm 9th Layer, no wonder he spoke so arrogantly. With such cultivation, he could indeed roam freely in the Taicang dynasty. Guwen slowly turned around, looking at Traveler of graceful crane rummaging through his things, not in a hurry, watching him perform. A Grand Unification Realm 9th Layer cultivator needed to search for something by hand? This guy clearly thought he had Guan in the palm of his hand, deliberately messing with Guan and Li Ya's minds. Primordial ancestor? So you are family. In that case, I'll torture you to death in front of him to put an end to his wild thoughts. Traveler of graceful crane sneered coldly. Upon hearing this, Li Ya immediately moved to stand beside Guan, offering the North Sea heavy sword to him. To kill him, do I need a sword? Guan's hoarse voice sounded, making Li Ya pause, causing Traveler of graceful crane to halt his search. Traveler of graceful crane looked up at Guan. The two stood on a slope, with Guan standing higher. He couldn't see Guan's true face, but for some reason, looking at the opponent's posture gave him an uneasy feeling in his heart. He suddenly pulled out a scroll from the book box. When the scroll unfurled, terrifying magma erupted, blocking out the sky and blotting out the sun with a mighty force. Li Ya stood dazed, unable to react. Guan swiftly raised his right hand, flicking his finger to release a beam of light. It pierced through the terrifying magma, forcefully piercing Traveler of graceful crane's throat, blood spurting from the back of his neck. Traveler of graceful crane's eyes widened in disbelief. As his body leaned backward, a foot stepped on his back. Boom! The mountain quaked. Under Li Ya's watchful eyes, the formidable Traveler of graceful crane, who once made him despair, was trampled under the foot of the primordial ancestor, stone debris flying everywhere. Ugh! Traveler of graceful crane spat out a mouthful of reverse blood, desperately finding his spiritual power suppressed within his body, incapable of manifesting outside or casting spells for escape. He had never felt such suppression. Even a great mystic heart realm cultivator couldn't suppress him like this. Could it be that he had reached above the 5th level of the mystic heart realm? Traveler of graceful crane felt an absurdity. Boom! Boom! Guan started stomping, foot by foot, on Traveler of graceful crane's back. More blood pooled beneath him, forming cracks in the mountain surface. Shrouded in dark purple demonic chi, Guan appeared like a demon god from the netherworld. Even Li Ya couldn't help but feel a tinge of fear in his heart. The primordial spirit of the old ancestor within him was also silent. After 9 stomps, Traveler of graceful crane had lost his combat ability. Guan's right foot ignited with Taicang true fire, attaching it to Traveler of graceful crane's body. He then stepped back, using his left hand to capture Traveler of graceful crane's primordial spirit, while his right hand picked up the book box beside him. Traveler of graceful crane's body was swiftly incinerated to ashes. Guan's figure vanished, leaving only a sentence. From now on, survive at your best. There's no need to seek me out again. Li Ya stood on the slope, gazing at the ashes of Traveler of graceful crane, speechless for a long time. After quite a while, he couldn't help but ask in his mind, do you still think the primordial ancestor has no chance against the main branch of the ephemera sect? The old ancestor didn't respond. Inside the Mystic Heaven Cave mansion, Guan sat at a stone table, performing the soul-capturing skill on Traveler of graceful crane's primordial spirit. Indeed, Traveler of graceful crane was not from the 9 dynasties. He came from the main branch of the ephemera sect, having arrived early on. 300 years ago, the main branch of the ephemera sect descended upon the land of the 9 dynasties. He and several fellow disciples scattered. The others enacted the primary branch's major plan, searching for suitable puppet sects, while he traveled alone, seeking immortal opportunities. His actions were unique due to his core disciple status within the primary branch, possessing a prestigious background. 200 years ago, he encountered the mighty LV Baitin, realizing he wasn't an opponent, so he avoided it, hiding away for 200 years. The main branch of the ephemera sect came to the land of the 9 dynasties knowing it would be devoured by demons. In their view, the human race here was doomed and better be fed to the ephemera tree. The ephemera tree craved the spiritual power and flesh of human cultivators. If it could devour the humans of the 9 dynasties, it could transcend the heavenly destiny, reaching the legendary 9th rank. At that time, the ephemera tree could open the 9 nether road anytime, providing convenience for the primary branch of the ephemera sect to act, traveling wherever they wanted. Through Traveler of Graceful Crane's memories, Guan learned about the hierarchy within the primary branch of the Ephemera sect. Previously, he had slain Golden Spirit Venerable, one of the 100 venerables within the primary branch, each with a mystic heart realm cultivation level. The master of the primary branch had, 500 years ago, transcended the mystic heart realm to enter the legendary Mahayana realm. In other words, there was only one Mahayana realm cultivator in the primary branch of the Ephemera sect. 500 years could allow that branch master to reach the 9th layer of the Mahayana realm? Guan pondered silently. Several ancient hours later, he withdrew his divine sense, then finished Traveler of Graceful Crane off, claiming 209 years of lifespan. Guan's right hand rested on the book box, lightly tapping it with his finger, eyes flickering. No more waiting. Tomorrow he would resolve the ephemera tree below the 9 Nether Road to prevent any long-term worries. Anyway, if he didn't act, the primary branch of the ephemera sect wouldn't just let it go. Chapter 118 Sword Venerable Fudao Strikes. Wuxian Wasteland. At dawn. Because of the overcast clouds in the sky, this wasteland had never seen the sun or moon. On top of a broken cliff, dozens of cultivators gathered, including Jianghu, the vice sect leader of the supreme sect. They looked towards the horizon, with worry etched on their faces. That female demon is simply too powerful. Without a mystic heart realm cultivator, no matter how many of us join forces, it will be useless. There is no mystic heart realm cultivator in our dynasty. Our sect once had one, but he left 800 years ago and has been hard to find. How many mystic heart realm great cultivators stand behind the ephemera sect? We have nowhere to go and cannot retreat. They were all leaders of various sects, all at the unification realm. Before the ephemera sect wreaked havoc, each of them was a legendary figure in the 9 dynasties' immortal cultivation world, possessing immense power to turn the tides. Yet now, after gathering for many days, they were at a loss, not daring to act rashly. Many unification realm cultivators had already died under the ephemera tree. Some had acted alone, and they had also launched total assaults, all ending in failure, the terror of the mystic heart realm paralyzing them. Jianghu suddenly raised his right hand. A ring on his index finger emitted a shimmering light that penetrated his brow. His face lit up with joy. Then he lowered his right hand and spoke. Everyone, our supreme sect's supreme elder, Grandmaster Xuan, has returned and is on his way here. When he arrives, we can follow him in launching an attack. Our Grandmaster Xuan has already attained the mystic heart realm. This statement made all the sect leaders look at him with matching excitement and joy. For a moment, the praises for the supreme sect rose one after another, making Jianghu stand up proudly. Although the supreme sect was the strongest sect in the Taicang dynasty, it might not rank among the top 3 within the 9 dynasties. If they could achieve indelible merit in facing the calamity of the ephemera sect, they would surely become famous, attracting more families and cultivators in the future. The atmosphere on the cliff improved, and everyone saw hope in defeating the demon of the ephemera sect. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, under the rolling overcast clouds, hundreds of zhang tall ephemera trees stood like a gigantic demon, towering and ferocious. Vines hung down from the branches of the ephemera tree, most of them with corpses tied to the ends. Some were not completely dead, their bodies trembling slightly, eyes filled with blood, veins bulging in their necks, a pitiful sight. Amid the crowd, Jiang Qiong's delicate brows furrowed as she looked at the hanging cultivators. She couldn't help but touch a blood-colored ephemeris seal on her wrist, her heart filled with worry. If this continued, she felt she would either be killed by the 9 dynasties' cultivators or be absorbed by the ephemera tree. She couldn't just sit and wait for death. But what could she do? The ephemeris seal restricted her freedom. Jiang Qiong looked at the middle-aged man beside her and transmitted her voice. Father, do you still trust the ephemera sect? The middle-aged man sitting next to her was her father, Jiang Lang, one of the pavilion masters of the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. He had not only brought Jiang Qiong but also many disciples to join the ephemera sect. Jiang Lang's face was sullen, and he didn't answer. How could he not know he had been played, but what could he do now? There were countless corpses of Unification Realm and Void Crossing Realm cultivators hanging from the ephemera tree. With his abilities, how could he escape? He turned to look in another direction, where 4 cultivators sat on the outskirts of the ephemera sect's million followers, their auras so oppressive that no one dared to act recklessly. At present, only those closely connected to the ephemera sect's higher-ups or trusted individuals could leave. Jiang Lang was neither. He belonged to sect hierarch Zhong Liang. He should have enjoyed authority, but with Zhong Liang's fall, his followers were scattered and imprisoned. Even if accepted, they weren't trusted. Seeing her father's expression, Jiang Qiong knew she couldn't count on him. Indeed, from the beginning, the only person she could rely on was herself. Jiang Qiong looked back at the ephemera tree, her gaze becoming resolute. She absolutely couldn't fall here. Just as this thought surfaced, a burst of light illuminated her face, making her eyes widen. Not just her, but everyone was illuminated. The rolling clouds above the ephemera tree suddenly dissipated, revealing a nearly 1,000-mile-wide opening, with sunlight and scattered snowflakes falling through. The black-clad woman sitting on the array platform looked up, her eyes flashing sharply through her mask. Not just her, but the 4 great cultivators at the edges of the million-strong ephemera sect also looked up. Under the sunlight, the ephemera tree began to tremble, seemingly disliking the sunlight. "Who are you who dares to reveal yourself?" The black-clad woman stood up and shouted loudly, her cold voice echoing through the heavens and earth. A figure appeared out of nowhere high above the ephemera tree. It was Guan, performing the 9 extremes yin-yang body. Guan looked down at everyone below, catching sight of Jiang Qiong. From high above, the millions of followers of the ephemera sect looked like prisoners, sitting on the ground, with some cultivators standing on the outskirts, clearly there to guard the seated followers. Trusting the ephemera sect led to such a result. It truly was tragic. Guan swiftly cast lifespan detection on one after another. A 2nd layer Mystic Heart Realm, and 4 9th layer Unification Realm. The ephemera tree beneath him had the same limited lifespan as the previous ephemera tree he had seen, and it was only a bit over 500 years old. To grow so quickly, how many people had it consumed? Guan raised his right hand, conjuring a cyan sword shadow in his palm. "Bold!" The black-clad woman shouted angrily, killing intent flashing through her eyes as she appeared beside Guan in one step, a blood-red sword in her hand, slashing at Guan. The sword strike seemed to unleash thousands of evil ghosts towards Guan, blood light covering the entire sky in an instant. But it was only for an instant. Boom! The black-clad woman was sent flying, crashing through the ground after passing over the heads of 1,000,000 followers, her life or death unknown. This scene shocked everyone. How could it be? Everyone cried out in their hearts. During this time, the black-clad woman had fully demonstrated her immense power, appearing nearly invincible. No matter how strong or renowned the attacking cultivators were, they were easily suppressed by her. Such a powerful being had no way to resist in front of this person? Guan raised his left hand, and his index finger shot out a radiant beam, piercing through the swirling dust towards where the woman had fallen. An alert appeared in front of Guan. "You successfully seized 47 years of Night Cultivator Fairies, 2nd layer Mystic Heart Realm, lifespan." Not bad. Guan's left hand reached out again, capturing the mystic heart of the Night Cultivator Fairy from afar. The mystic heart scattered the rolling dust, fell into his hand, and then he stored it in his storage bag. The 4 9th layer Unification Realm great cultivators guarding the edges of the million ephemera sect followers saw the situation was dire and immediately fled in different directions. Guan raised his hand, pointing 4 times. Breaking path divine light. 4 radiant beams shot out like falling stars. The gazes and divine senses of the million followers couldn't capture their trajectories, but everyone felt those 4 were doomed. The world fell into silence. "The 1000 Autumn Pavilion has such a figure," Jiang Lang murmured. He was still in shock. Jiang Qiong was equally frightened. She was secretly glad she hadn't caused trouble in the 1000 Autumn Pavilion earlier. Sequential alerts appeared before Guan. He released the cyan sword shadow in his right hand, pointing the sword tip at the ephemera tree. Feeling the threat, the ephemera tree trembled, releasing the corpses as the vines floated upwards. Under the watch of the million followers of the ephemera sect, a terrifying, twisted face emerged from the main trunk of the ephemera tree. What is that? A demon tree. It really is a demon tree. That face, we were deceived. No. Impossible. A deafening uproar erupted among the million followers. Unlike Jianghu, most had come this far still harboring illusions or needing to cling to hope. Rumble, the ground quaked as enormous vines burst through and struck at Guan, startling the crowd to soar into the sky, with some taking the chance to flee. Yet there were also those, including Jianghu, who courageously charged into the Nine Nether Road. The cyan sword shadow in Guan's palm burst forth with terrifying sword intent, descending like a divine weapon with dazzling light. That sword intent. Sword Venerable Fudao. During her flight, Jianghu looked up at Guan in horror. Sword Venerable Fudao was that powerful. The cyan sword shadow, carrying the sword intent of the Taicang Divine shocking sword, fell. Cultivators barely lifted off, were unable to flee the battlefield before the cyan sword shadow descended on the ephemera tree. This time, the sword intent was overwhelming, forcefully suppressing the ephemera tree, reducing it to ashes from top to bottom. The sword shadow hit the ground, shattering it, creating faults spreading rapidly in all directions, resembling an expanding spider web from the sky. Guan watched Jianghu escape into the Nine Nether Road without stopping her. After today, Jianghu would struggle to survive even if she stayed. He sensed dozens of Unification Realm auras rapidly approaching from a distance and immediately vanished. As for the million followers, Guan had considered slaughtering them but feared many, like Yang Anai and Liya, had been deceived or forced into the sect, making causality too complex, and he feared killing innocents. Wanton slaughter would be no different from the ephemera sect. He didn't want to be seen as a great demon and later besieged by all. Yet, even so, his earlier sword had still killed many cultivators. That was not Guan's concern. Everyone must bear the consequences of their choices. Not killing them all was his way of exercising benevolence. Alert after alert appeared madly before Guan, who vanished from the spot. The ground continued to crack, dust rolling into the sky, billowing and vast. Tian and the others rushed in from afar. The wind mixed with dust blew in their faces, and their divine senses had already detected the destruction of the ephemera tree. Haha, our supreme sect's sword Venerable Fudao has taken action. Tian couldn't help but laugh loudly, boasting of sword Venerable Fudao's strength. Another supreme sect's cultivator? The sect leaders were moved. The previous sword intent had frightened them, making them feel it was impossible to reach such a height in a lifetime of cultivation. After the ephemera sect's destruction, they had to reassess the F. Chapter 119. Sword Venerable's Prestige. Lu Lingjun's guest Guan walked into Mystic Valley, scanning the disciples' cultivation along the way. He spotted Chu Jingfeng meditating under a tree with a wooden sword standing before him. He suddenly became interested and turned around to walk over. "Brother Chu, what are you doing?" Guan asked curiously. Chu Jingfeng opened his eyes and replied, "I'm contemplating my swordsmanship, trying to create a new sword technique." "Creating a sword technique? That's amazing. Why are you using a wooden sword? If you need a real sword, you can ask me." Guan praised him and then took out a treasure sword from his storage bag. Chu Jingfeng's storage bag had long been confiscated, and the spirit stones he earned doing odd jobs were kept in his house. Facing the gift of the sword, Chu Jingfeng shook his head and said, "No need. I want to comprehend pure swordsmanship, deriving it from the heart rather than from the sword itself." It sounded quite profound. Guan put away the sword and said with a smile, "If you need anything, just come to me anytime." After speaking, he headed towards his attic. Chu Jingfeng watched Guan's back, sensing his joyful mood. Though he is weak, he is always cheerful. Chu Jingfeng watched Gu Anna's back silhouette silently, feeling a tinge of envy in his heart. Born into a wealthy family, he ended up imprisoned due to the family's power struggle. If he had the choice, he would prefer starting as a servant disciple to avoid heavy burdens. Chu Jingfeng stopped thinking about it and resumed his sword enlightenment. After cultivating Taoist expansion skill, his cultivation level couldn't increase. He was too lazy to practice other spells, deciding to focus solely on sword enlightenment. Just like that mad swordsman Han Ming of Great Yu, who after attaining sword enlightenment, became unstoppable. Elsewhere, back in his attic, Guan sat at his desk and brought up his attribute panel. His lifespan had skyrocketed by more than 300,000 years. This meant that during the extermination of the ephemera tree, he had killed thousands of ephemera sect cultivators. Guan suddenly understood why there were so many demon cultivators. He tried hard to calm his emotions and maintain his original heart, not falling into the demon path. It's still better to grow flowers and herbs. The lifespan provided by Mystic Heart Realm great cultivators is equivalent to that of 5th-tier medicinal herbs. For him, the benefits of killing enemies were not much different from harvesting herbs and might even invite potential trouble. Guan took out the Green Hero travelogue to shift his attention. Soon, he immersed himself in the love and grudges between the Green Hero and his beloved. Meanwhile, in the dustless wasteland, many cultivators flew through the air. Some were arriving, others were escorting ephemera sect cultivators away. On a cliff, Tian stood behind an elder in a white robe, respectfully recounting the earlier battle. That's how it happened, elder. It was all thanks to Sword Venerable Fudao. Who exactly is he among the supreme elders? The Mystic Heart Realm great cultivator had no way to resist him. Tian asked, trying hard to suppress his excitement. The intervention of Sword Venerable Fudao had thrilled him greatly and made him proud. Recalling the shocked expressions of other sect leaders, he felt immensely satisfied. The elder standing before him, who had just returned, was Supreme Elder Xianquan. Supreme Elder Xianquan remained silent, closing his eyes as well. Tian did not disturb him, thinking that the Supreme Elder was contemplating who Sword Venerable Fudao might be. Little did he know, Supreme Elder Xianquan was deeply shocked inside. Which Supreme Elder in the Supreme Sect was this powerful? However, he had heard stories of Sword Venerable Fudao upon his return, which at least suggested the other party's heart was aligned with the Supreme Sect, most likely being a member, though not a Supreme Elder. He had encountered similar situations overseas, where extraordinary talents would emerge in those super sects, stepping forward during the sect's crisis. This was known as the sect's great fortune. Could it be that the Supreme Sect also had such great fortune? Supreme Elder Xianquan slowly opened his eyes and said, Sword Venerable Fudao hides his identity because he doesn't want to be disturbed. The more this is the case, the less we should probe into his identity. We should even find ways to protect his information. But his achievements must be widely publicized to strengthen his sense of belonging to the Supreme Sect. Otherwise, over time, he may leave, feeling that the Supreme Sect has no benefits for him and only drags him down. Elder, I think the same. I've already sent a message to the sect leader, asking him to publicize this matter, Tian said with a smile. The Supreme Sect had survived another catastrophe. According to ancient laws, it would rise triumphantly after a disaster. Go about your business. They'll check the entrance to 9 Nether Road. Perhaps this path could become an opportunity for the Supreme Sect. After saying this, Supreme Elder Xianquan vanished into thin air. Tian turned around and left, preparing to discuss with other sects how to handle 9 Nether Road. As the year's end approached, Guan went to the outer gate city to find Wuju, bringing wine and roasted chicken. Seeing him, Wuju was delighted, pulling him inside. After closing the door, Wuju excitedly said, Brother Gu, why are you here? This was the first time anyone had voluntarily visited him. How could he not be happy? Just to see you, fearing you might be bored. Guan replied with a smile, though he truly wanted to see if Wuju had had any further enlightenment. Unfortunately, he had not. Guan wished to witness Wuju's continuous enlightenment, surpassing the Supreme Sect's geniuses. For him, enlightenment was optional. After all, he could increase his lifespan through other means. He considered enlightenment out of boredom and to see if he could find a way to help extend the lifespan of those around him. So far, enlightenment seemed quite difficult, not achievable merely through deep experiences or rich emotions. Wuju placed bowls and chopsticks on the table, while Guan set down the wine and roasted chicken, observing the room and noting no changes. Wuju's cultivation had risen from Foundation Establishment Realm 2nd layer at the end of his enlightenment to Foundation Establishment Realm 4th layer. How long had it been? His talent seemed higher than that limited by extreme longevity? Judging by his living environment, it appeared Wuju had not sought another master. By the way, have you heard about Sword Venerable Fudeo's deeds? He single-handedly defeated the Ephemera sect, unbelievably. Thousands of fellow sects couldn't vanquish that demon, but he killed it in 2 moves. He's even more impressive than Guyu from the Supreme Immortal Venerable. While pouring wine for Guan, Wuju said with a smile. The Supreme Sect was already abuzz with Sword Venerable Fudeo's legend, and not just Wuju, servant disciples from the 3rd Medicine Valley and Mystic Valley were discussing it. Visiting Tian Valley a few days ago, Luo Hun had also inquired about this. Of course I've heard, truly impressive. I wonder what he's like in person, Guan said with a laugh. The two began discussing Sword Venerable Fudao, toasting back and forth, quickly finishing a jar of wine. Wuju pulled out a secret book from his pocket, saying, "Brother Gu, this is a fist technique I exchanged for all my savings. Take a look and practice it when you get home." Guan hurriedly refused, "How can I accept this? No, I can't take advantage of you." "What do you mean, take advantage? You're my only friend, and learning some combat techniques is never a bad thing. I've come to realize that the immortal cultivation world is rarely peaceful for decades, with conflicts between righteous and demonic paths erupting frequently." Wuju said earnestly. Hearing this, Guan had no choice but to accept. He began to read through the fist technique. Sunset Fist. After a quick look, Guan memorized it all and returned the secret book to Wuju. Wuju was stunned, asking, "So quickly? You don't like it?" Guan replied, "I'm not fond of fighting. This fist technique is too aggressive for me." Wuju smiled wryly. "When cultivators fight, it's a matter of life and death unless you stay in the Supreme Sect forever." "Huh, I really want to stay here forever." "Fine then." Not wanting to take advantage of him, Guan took out a swordsmanship book, saying, "I have a sword technique here, would you like to see?" "No need. Though I respect Sword Venerable Fudao, I don't like using swords. Or rather, I don't like using magic artifacts in battle. I only trust my fists and feet." Wuju waved his hand, displaying his muscular arm. Guan chuckled and took out the Gale Shadowless Leg secret book, saying, "How about this one?" Wuju glanced at it, instantly unable to look away. "It sounds impressive, must be valuable? No worries, take it. If you become important in the Supreme Sect one day, don't forget about me," Guan said. Hearing this, Wuju hesitated no longer, eagerly taking the book and reading it intently. Guan picked up his wine bowl, gazing at the focused Wuju. Who could imagine his demeanor 1,000 years from now? With the arrival of spring, the snow season extended, not ceasing even by the time of the spring festival. The 3rd Medicine Valley became lively, with the attic area adorned with lanterns and festive decorations. The disciples were busy, their faces beaming with smiles. Guan sat at a long table in the courtyard, watching the bustling disciples with a smile. Having many people was good, no need for him to toil. Guan glanced at Lu Lingjun, who was making paper cuts among the female disciples, looking virtuous and gentle, contrasting her Unification Realm 9th layer cultivation level. Xuan approached excitedly. "Senior brother, they're building a statue of Sword Venerable Fudao next to the Heavenly Repair platform. It's grand. You must see it next time you go." He had also started cultivating the Taoist expansion skill, though less enthusiastically than Chu Jingfeng or Lu Jiujia. He had accepted his aptitude and enjoyed life honestly. Guan could only respect this, as forcing cultivation was not possible. Besides, practicing the skill seriously only delayed aging, not prevented it. Is that so? I should indeed take a look. Guan raised his eyebrows and smiled. The Supreme Sect's attitude pleased him, giving him due respect. Xuan continued narrating changes in the outer gate as Guan sensed LV Beiyin flying over. Soon, LV Beiyin landed. Xuan immediately got up and left, not daring to intrude. Let's talk inside, LV Beiyin said, making his way into the attic. Lu Lingjun glanced over, curious. What was Guan's true identity? Why did this Unification Realm 9th layer Great Cultivator constantly seek him? Could Guan be hiding his cultivation, not as weak as he appeared? These thoughts swirled in Lu Lingjun's mind, urging her to find an opportunity to talk with Xuan. Meanwhile, inside, Guan shut the door, and LV Beiyin placed a restriction, then sat down asking, "There's a great opportunity, do you want it?" Chapter 120 Sword Intent shocks the sect. No. Guan refused outright, thinking, how could the Supreme Sect have any opportunities after just experiencing a calamity? LV Beiyin was stunned for a moment, not expecting such a blunt refusal. Instantly annoyed, he said, "You brat, I haven't even told you what the opportunity is." Guan sat down and said, "I won't be the sect leader, I won't write books, and I won't entertain disturbances from the holy sons or holy daughters anymore." LV Beiyin laughed in anger after hearing that. "In your eyes, am I that kind of person? I just don't want trouble, did I wrong you? If so, I apologize." Guan said seriously. LV Beiyi's face froze, then he gave a faux cough and said, "Naturally, you have wronged me. I came to find you for other matters." "What matters?" "You must have heard of the 9 Nether Road. It has now been sealed off by the 9 dynasties working together, with each sect sending cultivators to guard it. Even the main lineage of the Ephemera sect would find it hard to shake. Now, the sects of the 9 dynasties are leading disciples to train on the 9 Nether Road, where demons roam freely. You can kill demons and seize treasures. Moreover, the spiritual energy is rich, making it suitable for cultivation. LV Beiyin spoke slowly, which indeed surprised Guan. He hadn't expected the 9 Nether Road to be turned into a training ground like a secret realm. Guan asked, "Isn't the 9 Nether Road supposed to be dangerous?" "It is dangerous, so great cultivators will lead the disciples for training. I want to give you a spot so that when you enter the 9 Nether Road, someone will protect your life. You can cultivate, kill demons, or search for treasures. No matter what you do, someone will have your back. Isn't that a great opportunity? Furthermore, the Supreme Sect plans to build a city inside the 9 Nether Road for disciples to rest and cultivate." LV Beiyin spoke passionately, full of ambition. He believed that if he developed the 9 Nether Road well, the Supreme Sect would soar to new heights, possibly entering its most prosperous period ever, and his status in the sect's history would rise accordingly. Guan listened carefully and thought it indeed seemed feasible. LV Beiyin seemed intent on changing a long-standing trend where cultivators would leave the 9 dynasties' lands after reaching the Unification Realm to seek opportunities elsewhere. LV Beiyin wanted to enhance the foundation of the Supreme Sect, making it stronger so future disciples wouldn't need to venture out for opportunities. The 9 Nether Road was his first step. He also planned to establish a sea route, led by the newly returned elder Xianquan. He spoke more and more passionately, almost declaring his intention to unify the continent. Guan listened with great interest, admiring LV Beiyi's vision. The stronger the Supreme Sect, the better it would be for him to benefit from its shade. After a long while, LV Beiyin finally ended his endless speech and looked at Guan asking, "So, will you go?" Guan shook his head and said, "I won't go. I need to stay and look after the Medicine Valley. Someone else can look after it as well." "No, I can't relax. Honestly, I'm scared. I always feel the 9 Nether Road is very dangerous, and my combat ability is weak. I won't go. How about this, I give my spot to someone else, is that okay?" You don't want to go, yet you want to give away your spot? I have contributed to the Supreme Sect too. This huge medicine valley, I didn't embezzle anything. Shouldn't you reward me? Looking at Guan's righteous look, LV Baitin shook his head and smiled. After thinking about it, he still agreed to Guan's request. Giving the spot to someone close to Guan would still increase Guan's sense of belonging to the Supreme Sect. LV Baitin didn't believe he couldn't hand off the sect leader position. He was determined to give it to Guan. In the long run, Guan would eventually accept it. Thinking of this, LV Baitin smiled, filled with anticipation. How do you think the Supreme Sect can become the #1 sect of the 9 dynasties? LV Baitin suddenly asked, wanting to test Guan while guiding him toward the mindset of a sect leader. Guan answered directly, using force won't work, it easily accumulates hatred. We can use cultural infiltration. Just like the previous Outer Sect conference, the Supreme Sect could host various conferences in the future, such as formation, alchemy, sword competition, talisman crafting, etc. We should strive to make the Supreme Sect hold grand events that attract the attention of the 9 dynasties every few years. The initial investment might be huge, but once people get used to it, they will gradually recognize the Supreme Sect as the orthodox sect. Imagine if you just stepped onto the path of the sword cultivator and heard that the Supreme Sect's sword competition was a must-attend event, an opportunity to make a name for oneself. You would subconsciously think that the Supreme Sect holds a high position in the Sword Dao. When people frequently mention the Supreme Sect, or when the Supreme Sect becomes the most frequently mentioned sect by the populace, the Supreme Sect won't be far from becoming the greatest sect. Of course, the sect's own strength is the most important. Guan spoke eloquently. After hearing LV Baitin's long talk, he decided to pontificate. LV Baitin soon became absorbed in listening, and seeing him paying close attention, Guan became even more enthusiastic, discussing the details. It couldn't just be competitions of strength, it would be best to have other competitions of skills. These events could be held in different outer sect and inner sect cities, driving the economic development of these cities. He even proposed establishing various societies among the disciples, such as the Elixir Society and Swordsman Society, to facilitate disciple exchanges and allow disciples with leadership skills to hone their abilities. LV Baitin was astonished. This boy writing Investiture of the Gods wasn't a coincidence. He truly had great talent inside. After Guan finished speaking, LV Baitin drank a bowl of tea in one go, feeling invigorated. LV Baitin looked at him intently and said, "And you say you're not fit to be the sect leader?" Guan waved and said, "I don't have the qualifications to be the sect leader. I don't have an illustrious background, nor do I have the courage or boldness to implement grand plans. At most, I can offer some advice. Execution is the hardest part. Guan would never be sect leader." LV Baitin smiled and then began to ask questions about the strategies Guan had just mentioned, with Guan patiently answering. An hour passed before they both walked out of the pavilion. LV Baitin followed Guan, still savoring Guan's ideas. As soon as they went downstairs, he bid farewell, saying he wasn't in the mood for festivities. Guan didn't try to persuade him to stay. Without LV Baitin around, the festive atmosphere in the Third Medicine Valley became even more relaxed. After the new year, the matter of training on the 9 Nether Road quickly spread throughout the Supreme Sect. Treasures, heavenly materials, demon cores, spiritual energy, all kinds of benefits of the 9 Nether Road began to spread wildly. It was obvious that LV Baitin, heeding Guan's advice, focused on publicizing the specific benefits of the opportunities, stirring up the enthusiasm of the disciples and enhancing their sense of belonging to the sect. In the Law Enforcement Hall, Yi Lan was summoned to meet with the elder of the Law Enforcement Hall. The elder of the Law Enforcement Hall smiled and said, "Yi Lan, the higher-ups have assigned you a spot for the 9 Nether Road. You are quite impressive. Don't worry, the Law Enforcement Hall won't mistreat you. We will help you better enter the 9 Nether Road." Yi Lan froze. The 9 Nether Road? The first person she thought of was Guan. Even though she had been rooted in the Law Enforcement Hall for years, opportunities like the 9 Nether Road were far beyond her reach. She had heard that the first batch of spots for the 9 Nether Road was limited to only 200, and the outer sect hardly had any chance. The corners of Yi Lan's mouth lifted. She felt no burden about being taken care of by Guan, only surprise and sweetness. Senior brother, it seems you still have me in your heart, even if you are stubborn with words. Yi Lan understood Guan's thoughts. Romantic relationships could indeed hinder cultivation. Precisely because of this, she wanted to seize every opportunity to become stronger, proving her determination to her senior brother. Winter passed, and spring came, bringing the awakening of all things. Time reached early March. In the third Medicine Valley, Guan squatted by the Heavenly Spirit Pond formed by Heavenly Spirit water. He had just released a batch of carp into it and was watching them swim freely to see if they could absorb the spiritual energy of the pond. Lu Lingjun stood beside him and said, "If raised like this, they might develop spiritual wisdom. Will the Heavenly Spirit water continue to expand?" Guan asked curiously. Lu Lingjun replied, "With the amount of water I have given you, it should reach a diameter of 10 zhang." Hearing this, Guan thought it was a bit small. Just as he was about to speak, suddenly a sword intent came from afar, alarming the sky. Lu Lingjun's expression changed slightly. She turned her head, frowning. Guan looked up and saw thunderclouds rapidly rolling in the sky, heading towards the inner sect. The sword intent of the Taicang Divine shocking sword. Guan could feel Enhao's presence. Good boy, he's already mastered the sword intent of the Taicang Divine shocking sword so quickly. Guan felt both gratified and a bit shocked. Enhao's talent was truly extraordinary. Lu Lingjun said in surprise, "This sword intent is similar to that left by Sword Venerable Fudao on the Heavenly Repair platform, but it's far less grand. Could it be that a disciple of Sword Venerable Fudao has initially mastered the Sword Dao?" Guan asked curiously, "A disciple? How can you tell so clearly? I can't even feel it." Lu Lingjun remained calm, saying, "Perhaps I've seen others cultivate sword intent." Having been a servant disciple for so long, she already understood the supreme sect and was ready to move up. To increase her status, her cultivation was naturally key. She didn't plan to start as an outer disciple but wanted to be introduced by Guan. Meanwhile, amidst clouds and mist, a mountain peak protruded through the sea of clouds, looking like an immortal realm. Alone at the mountain top, Enhao was meditating. Enhao's white robes fluttered wildly, and in front of him, a sword shadow condensed, exuding an ancient aura. Figures appeared out of thin air around him. LV Batian and Elder Xianquan had also arrived. Elder Guzong looked at Enhao, astonished, and said, "This sword intent is..." Another elder said in a deep voice, "The sword intent of Sword Venerable Fudao. Did he gain insight from the Heavenly Repair platform?" No, just relying on the Heavenly Repair platform isn't enough. He must have inherited Sword Venerable Fudao's legacy. A female elder said in a deep voice. So, he is a disciple of Sword Venerable Fudao? No wonder, such a genius would voluntarily join the Supreme Sect without any background. It turns out, Sword Venerable Fudao helped us nurture the disciple, Elder Guzong remarked. LV Batian kept his eyes fixed on Enhao, his gaze flickering. Elder Xianquan stroked his beard and said, "Such domineering sword intent, it could be recognized as the foremost sword Dao of the Taicang dynasty." His comment made the elders even more excited, and they began discussing Enhao's background and talent. Elder Xianquan, meanwhile, waved his sleeve, and flags flew out from it, surrounding Enhao. The flags started to gather nature's spiritual energy, pouring it into Enhao's body. Chapter 121. The Battle of the Worlds Number 1. Enhao's Taicang Divine shocking sword intent shook the entire Supreme Sect, causing countless disciples to discuss it fervently. The sword intent lingered for several hours before it dissipated. In the following days, various rumors emerged. The only certainty was that the pressure came from a sword intent, which led to an increasing number of sword cultivators gathering at the Heavenly Repair platform. Guan's days had been quite peaceful. He moved between the 3 medicine valleys, occasionally visiting the Mystic Heaven Cave mansion at night, and spent the rest of the time enjoying life. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. Guan turned 62 years old. The news of Sword Venerable Fudeo's eradication of the ephemera sect demons had just truly spread throughout the immortal cultivation world. Guan often heard people in the outer sect talking about it, and Sword Venerable Fudao had already earned the reputation of being the foremost sword cultivator of the Taicang dynasty. Some even thought he was the best in the world. That day at noon, Guan stood at the edge of the heavenly repair platform, looking at the 100-foot-tall stone statue ahead, feeling pleased. This 100-foot-tall stone statue was the divine statue of Sword Venerable Fudao, crafted in the posture of Guan performing his 9 extremes yin-yang body. The demonic qi around him was sculpted into an aura. The statue had one hand pointing diagonally and the other holding a sword, exuding an imposing air. At this moment, it wasn't just Guan who was observing the divine statue of the Sword Venerable. There were also over a dozen others gazing up, each discussing among themselves. Listening to their words of admiration for Sword Venerable Fudao, Guan felt even more delighted. Fame across the world? Who wouldn't want that? Guan wanted it too, but he feared others discovering his life-stealing ability, so he kept a low profile. However, being able to make a name for himself under another identity still satisfied his vanity. Sword Venerable Fudao may indeed be the foremost sword cultivator of the Taicang dynasty, but he is not necessarily the best in the world. A voice drew Guan's attention, as well as the gaze of many disciples around. The speaker was a man in blue attire, holding a folding fan. With an elegant demeanor and a handsome, calm face, it was as if the outrageous words just now hadn't come from his mouth. A burly inner sect disciple looked at the man in blue and said in a deep voice, "Oh? Then pray tell, who is the best sword cultivator in the world?" By now, Sword Venerable Fudao was the pride of all Supreme Sect disciples, and they wouldn't tolerate any questioning. The man in blue responded, "In the westernmost land, within Tianwei, there is a sword cultivator called Taoist Tianjian. 700 years ago, he was the foremost sword cultivator of Tianwei. He later retreated into the deep mountains, focusing solely on sword enlightenment. Not long ago, a sword intent erupted in Tianwei, proving he is still alive. If not for Sword Venerable Fudeo's swift action, it would have been this senior who ended the ephemera sect. Tianwei, one of the 9 dynasties, located at the far west, constantly plagued by demons, yet its territory was even more extensive than Taicang, a testament to Tianwei's might. Guan sensed that this person's cultivation level was hidden. On the surface, he appeared to be at the core formation realm, but had actually reached the divinity transformation realm. He cast a lifespan detection. Siege Divinity Transformation Second Level 289/800/1300, Concealed Cultivation, and boasting of Tianwei cultivators, this rascal must not be a disciple of the Supreme Sect. Guan remained silent, watching as the surrounding disciples verbally attacked Siege. Siege remained indifferent, facing the insults and slanders with calmness. Taoist Tianjian was indeed formidable and once renowned throughout the world. But that's ancient history. As a prince of the Tianwei imperial family, possessing the fire god blood lineage, to speak so recklessly within the Supreme Sect, are you inciting a war? A voice came, and everyone turned to see the mad swordsman of Great Yu, Han Ming, striding forward. Siege turned back, raised his hand in salute, and said, "So it's the mad swordsman, Senior. I've heard you've been in the Supreme Sect for many years. Are you planning to join the Supreme Sect?" He smiled gently, but his words were uncomfortable. Boy, if not for the favor your father, the Emperor, granted me, you'd be a corpse now. Do you think your divinity transformation realm cultivation can withstand my sword?" Han Ming snorted coldly. Divinity transformation realm. Upon hearing this, the disciples who had previously insulted Siege all turned pale and retreated. Since that's the case, there's no need to pretend anymore. Siege smiled, then looked around and shouted, "I am a disciple of Taoist Tianjian, a prince of the Tianwei dynasty, Siege. Today, I am here on behalf of my master to issue a challenge. In 3 months, my master will personally arrive at the heavenly repair platform to seek instruction in swordsmanship from Sword Venerable Fudao. His voice echoed beneath the sky, audible to the entire city. Someone wanted to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao? Han Ming smiled. He was the first sword cultivator to seek instruction from Sword Venerable Fudao, reminding him, the Ephemera sect has great cultivators beyond the unification realm. Does your master have such a level? Zhe closed his fan and smiled. Of course, originally my father, the emperor, was going to ask him to deal with the Ephemera sect. Unfortunately, he was a step too late. A reminder that my position as sect leader is unstable. LV Baishan's eyes turned deep, and his tone became elusive, making it unclear what he was thinking. Guan couldn't help but laugh and said, if that's the case, hasn't Chu Tianqi already perished? LV Baidian asked, do you think he hasn't? And how is exceptionally talented and must be favored by Sword Venerable Fudao? If it were you, would you send your most beloved disciple to a rival to become a sword? Guan felt LV Baidian was getting delusional. You have a point. LV Baidian smiled. Seeing his smile, Guan's heart skipped a beat. Wait, why was he asking him? LV Baidian continued, and Hao's talent is so strong that once he fully grows, it will be easy for him to earn the respect of the entire supreme sect, just like that true inheritor. Kid, if you don't become sect leader, the position will be his. Wouldn't that be better? I don't want to be sect leader anyway. Guan shook his head, and LV Baidian smiled, saying no more. Then, Guan inquired about Yi Lan's situation. The first group to venture into the Nine Nether Road had already set off. LV Baidian reassured, don't worry, I personally instructed the leading elder to take care of her. With the Qinghong sword, Guan could always sense Yi Lan's situation. However, he would only intervene in her moments of peril. Normally, he didn't want her to be neglected or bullied. The two chatted a while longer. Before leaving, LV Baidian left a book. After LV Baidian left, Guan picked it up to read. Defying Fate Divine Skill. At dusk, Li Ya, carrying the North Sea heavy sword, walked to the edge of the heavenly repair platform, gazing at the divine statue of Sword Venerable Fudao with barely hidden excitement in his eyes. Ancestor, the primordial ancestor is indeed Sword Venerable Fudao. Li Ya screamed in his heart. The ancestor was also shocked, sighing, I thought he was the demon of the Thousand Autumn Pavilion? I told you, our primordial ancestor can't possibly be a demon cultivator. Li Ya was overjoyed. On his way here, he had already learned about Taoist Tianjian's challenge, so he came to the heavenly repair platform to admire the image of Sword Venerable Fudao, discovering that he was indeed the primordial ancestor of the Li family. He began to look forward to the upcoming duel. Why don't you go see your junior brother Gu? The old ancestor's voice teased. Li Ya replied in his mind, I won't disturb him. My recent experiences aren't worth sharing. I'll wait until I've mastered the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword. Besides, the Supreme Sect is about to launch the Golden List. I must make a name for myself in the Golden List ceremony. His tone was full of confidence. After consuming the Dragon Image Divine Primordial and learning the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword, his confidence had soared. 7 steps away, a figure approached, also starting to gaze up at the divine statue of Sword Venerable Fudao. Wuju. He looked at the divine statue of Sword Venerable Fudao, his eyes filled with sorrow. Master, you always respected Sword Venerable Fudao. It's a pity you can't witness the upcoming duel. Wuju thought silently, contemplating deeply. Gradually, he began to enlighten the path. Li Ya, after watching for a while, turned to leave. Wait! The old ancestor's voice suddenly rang out. Chapter 122 The Real Taicang Divine Shocking Sword, What's Wrong? Li Ya asked in his mind, puzzled. He couldn't wait to return to the inner sect's cave, to cultivate properly and then become famous throughout the world. the voice of the ancestor rang out, "Look at the person next to you, he's actually gaining enlightenment." His tone was heavy, even carrying a hint of shock. Gaining enlightenment? Liya was confused, unable to stop himself from turning his head to look. His gaze quickly fell on Wuju. Wuju appeared very out of it, starkly different from the energetic disciples of the supreme sect around him. Was he gaining enlightenment? What kind of enlightenment? Thinking about a cultivation technique? Liya asked in his heart. The ancestor replied, "Gaining enlightenment is a special state, something one can encounter but not seek. During the process of gaining enlightenment, one can feel the heaven and earth true meaning, which leads to a transformation in both comprehension and physical aptitude. Those who can gain enlightenment, even if only once, can defy fate and rewrite their destiny. Even I have never gained enlightenment. I have only seen a friend of mine who had. If he were still alive, he would undoubtedly be one of the top experts in the 9 dynasties of the immortal cultivation world." So amazing? Liya examined Wuju carefully but couldn't see how Wuju was different. He looked quite ordinary, even less impressive than his junior brother Gu. At least his junior brother Gu was handsome and easily likable. The supreme sect truly hides dragons and crouching tigers. Not to mention LV Xian and Ji Xiaoyu, the cultivation speed of Anhao is unprecedented in history. Anyway, I've never heard of such a prodigious talent before. Now you encounter someone gaining enlightenment. The younger they are when they gain enlightenment, the greater their potential. This boy looks about your age. In the future, he will probably soar to great heights. The fortune of the supreme sect is unstoppable. The ancestor's tone was filled with emotion. He also felt pressured. Remembering his promises to Liya, he was filled with shame. He had promised to help Liya ascend to the peak of immortal cultivation and become #1 in the world. But seeing LV Xian and Ji Xiaoyu, and hearing the legends of Anhao, he felt the pressure. The talent of these 3 was too exaggerated, and their backgrounds far surpassed Liya's. The ancestor thought he couldn't provide Liya with an advantage in cultivation resources. It's a good thing that the supreme sect is so powerful. With rivals, I have something to look forward to, Liya thought confidently, leaving the ancestor unsure of how to respond. After a long time, the ancestor finally spoke. "Just stay nearby. When he wakes up, ask him if he has a master. If not, accept him for me." "Huh? I accept him as a disciple?" "Of course not, he will be my disciple." "What do you mean? If he is your disciple, isn't he my ancestor?" "Be content. Without my help, you wouldn't even have the qualifications to compete with such a genius." The ancestor said rudely. Although Liya was annoyed, he didn't argue back. He began to wait, while contemplating the sword intent of the Taicang Divine shocking sword. He waited for an entire night. The next morning, Wuju finally woke up. He had gained enlightenment more than once, so his expression remained calm. He turned to leave, but Liya stopped him. "Brother, do you have a master?" Liya asked directly. Wuju's eyes flashed with coldness. He bypassed Liya and walked toward the stage. Liya blocked him again, which made Wuju furious. He raised his hand to push Liya away. Liya's physical body was strong. He was not afraid of this foundation establishment realm cultivator. Wuju's right hand pressed against Liya's shoulder. Feeling the strength of his opponent, he clenched his fist and pushed hard. Liya was caught off guard and was pushed back 2 steps. Before he could react, Wuju controlled his sword and flew away, making it difficult for Liya to chase him since causing trouble in the city was prohibited. How is this possible? Such great strength. Liya was shocked and bewildered. The ancestor sighed in his heart. It's a pity, don't chase him. Avoid making enemies. Liya lost his smile. As a core formation realm cultivator, he had been pushed away by a foundation establishment realm cultivator. He had taken the dragon image divine primordial, a treasure pursued by the demon clan. It was too humiliating. No way. I'm still not strong enough. Liya clenched his fists, his arrogance disappearing. In autumn, the outer gate city became bustling with activity. Guan and Wuju gathered in an inn, drinking and chatting, waiting for the upcoming battle. Wu Ju was complaining to Guan about meeting Liya last month. At the mention of Liya, he became furious, feeling that Liya had insulted him. Guan nodded after listening, saying, "Indeed, it's quite odd. Asking such a question out of nowhere, never mind. Don't think about him, he is just a passerby in your life. You will become a genius eventually, why bother with such a small role?" Although the person Wu Ju spoke of was a bit despicable, Guan thought it wasn't worth holding a grudge. Wu Ju didn't need to worry about such small matters. When Wu Ju grew up, he couldn't imagine. Would he kill anyone he disliked? He didn't want Wu Ju to become such a person. Wu Ju nodded, saying, "Naturally, I won't hold a grudge. I'm just venting to you. You know, you are my only friend." Guan asked, "When will you reveal your talent?" The inn was crowded. Most people were chatting about Sword Venerable Fudao and Taoist Tianjian, not paying attention to them. Hearing Guan's question, Wu Ju shook his head. "It's fine just like this." He didn't trust others, especially since there had been internal strife in the Supreme Sect before. The former sect leader even conducted a blood sacrifice on his disciples, making him wary of the Supreme Sect. Guan took a storage bag from his waist and handed it to him. Wu Ju was suspicious, took the storage bag, and probed inside with his divine sense. His face turned pale, quickly pushing it back, saying, "Brother Gu, I can't accept this. How do you have so many?" He had always thought Guan was an ordinary, lowly disciple like him but didn't expect Guan to have so many elixirs. Guan smiled. "I am the Valley Master of Medicine Valley. These are elixirs I have refined. Just accept them. I'm not too eager to become strong. I fear fighting the most. Growing flowers and plants is my joy, so the elixirs suit you better. When you become strong, you must protect me." "But this is too much," Wu Ju hesitated. "You said I'm your only friend. Just accept it. If you feel bad, consider me your elder brother. An elder brother is like a father. As your teacher, I will take good care of you. I have plenty of elixirs." Guan made funny faces, making Wu Ju smile and glare at him. "I'm 2 years older than you, I should be the elder brother." "Forget it, your temperament is not as mature as mine." They began to bicker, and the smile on Wu Ju's face grew wider. In the end, Wu Ju accepted the storage bag, secretly vowing to never let anyone bully Guan in the future. They continued drinking. After 30 minutes, a loud voice echoed through the outer gate city. "I, Taoist Tianjian, have come to challenge the sword of Sword Venerable Fudao of the Supreme Sect." As the voice fell, a vast, majestic sword intent enveloped the entire outer gate city. Wu Ju's expression changed immediately, turning to look. Guan had already sensed Taoist Tianjian's presence, so he remained unmoved. Taoist Tianjian was indeed very strong, even slightly stronger than the Night Cultivator Fairy of the Ephemera sect. He was estimated to have the cultivation level of the 4th or 5th layer of the Mystic Heart Realm. Reaching the Mystic Heart Realm, a small realm gap was difficult to surpass. No wonder Taoist Tianjian dared to come. Guan stood up, saying, "I just remembered I have something to do at the Elixir Hall. I need to quickly get it done so I can watch the battle between Sword Venerable Fudao and Taoist Tianjian. I'll come find you afterward." With that he hurriedly left. Wu Ju didn't have time to stop him. After going downstairs, Wu Ju leaned out the window and shouted, "Hurry up!" Guan waved without turning back and quickly disappeared around the street corner. Taoist Tianjian has come. The outer gate city stirred, with more and more cultivators flying out, searching for Taoist Tianjian's figure in the sky. Chapter 123, Number 1 in the World. In the outer gate city, Taoist Tianjian stood motionless on a giant sword of white light. The autumn wind made his robe, white hair, and beard flutter, making him look transcendent as if he could ascend to immortality at any moment. The eaves of every building in the city were crowded with disciples, not only of the Supreme Sect but also cultivators from other sects and families, all eager to see who was the greatest sword master of the time. Billowing dark clouds surged from the horizon, swiftly covering the entire city, increasing the tension. Everyone dared not speak loudly, only whispering to each other. Wu Ju stood on an eave, facing the wind. The wind grew stronger, forcing him to cultivate energy to keep his hair from blocking his vision. What a powerful presence, truly like that of an immortal. Why hasn't Sword Venerable Fu Dao appeared yet? This battle can't be avoided, even the Prince of Tianwei has come to challenge us. Don't worry, the Venerable will definitely come. Even the mad swordsman of Great Yu had to wait for a while when he challenged him before. What's the hurry? A good show needs to be savored. Listening to the discussions around him, Wu Ju's eyes were filled with longing. He wondered when he would achieve such prestige. In the future, he too wanted to have such a widely anticipated duel with the top experts of the time. He hoped his opponent would be Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Boom! The dark clouds suddenly changed and thunder roared. A majestic celestial force descended, enveloping the outer gate city. He's here, Xian Quan said softly, drawing the eyes of those around him. And Hao was particularly excited, clenching his fists. Taoist Tianjian, standing on the giant sword of white light, also opened his eyes. He looked up at the boundless thunderclouds. The thunderclouds covered the entire sky, with lightning bolts like writhing dragons, making countless cultivators feel the pressure, as if a great catastrophe was impending. Thunder roared continuously, and the wind howled through the heavens and earth. Taoist Tianjian stood on the hilt of his sword, his white robe flaring like white flames burning fiercely. Sword Venerable Fu Dao, why do you not show yourself? Is this how the Supreme Sect treats its guests? His voice echoed, cold and indifferent. On the heavenly repair platform, Han Ming sneered. He didn't even get to meet Sword Venerable Fu Dao back then, and now you think you can? Just wait to be defeated. Shen Zhen had already sketched the figure of Taoist Tianjian. She took out another sheet of paper and continued to draw, first capturing the oppressive scene of the sky filled with thunderclouds. Face your demise with your strongest swordsmanship. A deep, hoarse voice rang out, making Li Ya and Hao incredibly excited. It was the voice of the primordial ancestor. It was the voice of the master. All the cultivators in the city held their breath. It was the first time they had heard the voice of Sword Venerable Fu Dao, and they were all shocked by its domineering tone. Absolute confidence, absolute dominance. This was the Sword Venerable Fu Dao of the Supreme Sect. Taoist Tianjian's eyes sharpened, and a vast sword intent burst from within him, sweeping across the sky above the outer gate city, forming a vast sea of swords. The brilliant sword light, crystal-like starlight, illuminated everyone's face. At a glance, it looked like a galaxy transversing above the outer gate city, astonishing everyone. What kind of sword intent was this? Was this a realm achievable through cultivation? In the galaxy formed by the condensed sword intent, countless sword shadows began to coalesce, all pointing skyward, their edges gleaming sharply. At the same time, the thunderclouds above intensified in their churning, quickly forming a giant face, with only its facial features visible, leaving the true visage unseen. It looked like an immortal deity, gazing down upon the entire outer gate city. In front of this giant face, everyone seemed insignificant, including the galaxy of sword intent created by Taoist Tianjian. Everyone's hearts raced as they looked at the massive face that occupied most of the sky, feeling an inexplicable sense of awe. Taoist Tianjian frowned, raising his right hand and placing 2 fingers to his lips. He began cultivating energy, and white flames of sword intent gathered around him, wind swirling around his body. His aura reached its peak, even startling the city's protection array to activate, forming a giant light shield to protect the entire city, with him floating just at its edge. The ground trembled, mountains swayed. The distant mystic valley was alarmed, making all the servant disciples turn their heads. Chu Jingfeng quickly reached the mountaintop, gazing afar at the rolling thunderclouds on the horizon, as if a great calamity was imminent. Not only from Mystic Valley, but even from the distant Tianya Valley, people were also alarmed. Yi Luyun, meditating on the mountaintop, squinted towards the distance, his hands tightly clenched in his sleeves. At this moment, this seeker of the sword Dao felt his insignificance. On the heavenly repair platform, the Prince of Tianwei, Xizhe, also became tense. Although Sword Venerable Fudao had yet to appear, the giant face in the sky was so terrifying that even he couldn't imagine what kind of power could crush the oppressive might of this giant face. Heavenly sword, rise. In the still and oppressive heaven and earth, Taoist Tianjian's voice suddenly rang out, like the first ray of light piercing through chaos, invigorating everyone's spirits. Taoist Tianjian thrust his right hand towards the sky, causing countless sword shadows floating in the galaxy of sword intent to rise together, converging, grand and spectacular. At this moment, the giant face in the sky suddenly opened its third eye on its forehead. A sword light shot out from the third eye, seeming like the light of the heavenly Tao, descending with unparalleled celestial might. Boom! The two terrifying sword intents collided in midair, causing the world to resonate. Countless cultivators' senses trembled, their visions blurred, and various noises filled their ears. Their divine senses felt a burning sensation, instinctively retreating. Mystic heart, LV Bin muttered as he gazed up at the unparalleled battle. His face was illuminated by two kinds of strong light, divided into upper and lower layers. The light below was silvery white, while the light above was dimmer, yet it continually devoured the silvery white light below. Taoist Tianjian's expression changed dramatically. His opponent's sword intent far exceeded his expectations. Impossible. Could he not be of the mystic heart realm? He thought in disbelief. At this moment, the sword light from the third eye of the giant face suddenly grew stronger, shattering his sword intent and descending upon him with a speed surpassing lightning. His white hair and robe flared. He stared with wide eyes, his body turning rigid. In his pupils, a figure could be vaguely seen gazing down at him as if an immortal deity watching over an ant. In the eyes of all onlookers, Taoist Tianjian's sword intent lasted only for the span of 2 breaths before it was instantly shattered. The vast galaxy of sword lights was crushed, forming countless silver fragments floating inside and outside the city. The scene was so visually overwhelming that cultivators of all realms were moved. Xian Quan's eyes widened, his heart churning with waves of shock. He had the highest realm and saw everything clearly. The gap between Sword Venerable Fudao and Taoist Tianjian was immense. Taoist Tianjian was no match for Sword Venerable Fudao at all. He could even confirm that when Sword Venerable Fudao first attacked, he deliberately held back. Otherwise, he could have killed Taoist Tianjian in an instant. Taoist Tianjian first showcased his strong sword intent to emphasize how terrifying Sword Venerable Fudao's sword was. At least Xian Quan was frightened, unable to fathom the true strength of Sword Venerable Fudao. Xizhe's pupils dilated, and his face was filled with disbelief as he looked at Taoist Tianjian. Before Sword Venerable Fudao acted, Taoist Tianjian was the number 1 in the world in his eyes. Yet, this number 1 in the world had been defeated so utterly. The mad swordsman of Great Yu, Han Ming, fell into a stupor. The strength demonstrated by Sword Venerable Fudao made him feel ashamed, realizing how overconfident he had been before. And Hao smiled broadly, trying to suppress his urge to cheer. Liya stood on the eaves, dumbstruck by what he saw. Shenzhen quickly regained her composure and swiftly sketched the scene of Taoist Tianjian's dreadful defeat. The wind howled as Taoist Tianjian fell backward. His mystic heart was shattered, and his primordial spirit was continuously breaking apart. It was hopeless, and he couldn't even speak anymore. Yet, his face showed a satisfied smile. The number 1 sword in the world. I have witnessed it. Taoist Tianjian's eyelids grew heavier. His gaze remained fixed on the giant face in the sky. Even when he closed his eyes, the corners of his mouth lifted into a smile. With a thud, Taoist Tianjian's body fell in front of the South City Gate, stirring up a cloud of dust. The overwhelming oppressive force covering the entire world dissipated, and the giant face formed of thunderclouds in the sky vanished as well. Boom! The entire city shook. The sounds of uproar and exclamations erupted like thunder from a clear sky. Everyone became excited, the cheers, shouts, and exclamations merging into a deafening roar. My heavens! It ended with one strike? Haha, I told you, Sword Venerable Fudao couldn't be defeated. The gap is too vast. Actually, Taoist Tianjian is really strong. Before Sword Venerable Fudao acted, I really thought he was the #1 in the world. Yes, that vast sword intent even made my sword want to unsheathe. Listening to the voices from every direction, Wuju also felt excited. It was a pity Guan wasn't around. He wouldn't be able to express his emotions alone. Just then he saw Guan leap up from the street, hurrying toward him. Seeing this, Wuju's face immediately broke into an excited smile. My heavens, did you see that just now? It was incredible! Guan hurried to Wuju, excitedly exclaiming. Wuju responded enthusiastically, I saw it. I saw it. He grabbed Guan, starting to exclaim in awe, just as excited as the others in the city. On the heavenly repair platform, LV Baitin looked at Guzong and instructed, increase the publicity for the Golden List Assembly. The top rank can get the Supreme Sect's secret manual of divine skills. Guzong nodded, unable to suppress the smile on his face. LV Bin then turned to another elder, saying, initiate the plan for the world's first sword society, start spreading the word. The top 10 in the world can observe Sword Venerable Fudao's sword intent and obtain his sword Dao legacy. The elder nodded but suddenly thought of something, hesitating to speak. There were too many people around. Some things couldn't be asked directly. The entire outer gate city was even more bustling than during the New Year, or rather, the city had never been this lively before. Stroking his beard, Xuan gazed out and sighed, the Supreme Sect is destined to rise. And Hao closed his eyes, carefully savoring Sword Venerable Fudao's earlier strike. Mysteriously, he seemed to grasp something, falling into deep contemplation. As if sensing something, Xuan suddenly turned to look at Hao, as did everyone else. When they saw Hao's state, they were all moved. This boy. I come from a very far place. While exploring a great power's cave, I encountered a mysterious formation and got transported here. Unable to find my way back, I decided to settle in the Supreme Sect. I hope the Valley Master could help introduce me. Guan asked in surprise. With your cultivation level, you can openly join the Supreme Sect. Why need my introduction? The Supreme Sect has strict rules. With my cultivation level, I can only become a guest elder, which means years of waiting. I noticed the Valley Master has connections. With your help, I could avoid decades of struggle, Lu Lingjun said seriously. As she spoke, she took out 3 bottles from her sleeve and said, these are heavenly spirit water as a token of gratitude. I hope the Valley Master likes them. Seeing this, Gu An's expression turned stern. This is nonsense. If you do this, it will seem as if I only helped you because of your gift. What would people think of me? He gathered the 3 bottles in front of him. Lu Lingjun laughed and said, how could that be? These heavenly spirit waters are only to thank the Valley Master for your care during this time. I see. You've been thoughtful. Guan smiled with satisfaction and then motioned Lu Lingjun to sit down. He began to explain some matters to her, mainly about the structure of the Supreme Sect, pointing out the importance of family influence to avoid making enemies. Initially, Lu Lingjun didn't take it seriously, but as she listened, she realized Guan was genuinely considering her situation, and she became earnest. Autumn passed and winter came, covering the 3rd Medicine Valley in snow. On this day, LV Baitin came to visit Gu, and seeing his figure, Lu Lingjun knew her opportunity had arrived. Guan didn't disappoint her. Half an hour later, Guan and LV Baitin came downstairs, and Guan waved to Lu Lingjun from afar. She quickly approached them, and LV Baitin sized her up and said, Guan has told me everything. Follow me to get your disciple token replaced. Lu Lingjun immediately thanked LV Baitin and bowed to Guan. Guan smiled and nodded, then watched them fly away. Xuan came over, astonished, and asked, why did Lu Lingjun leave? Didn't you notice she flew very fast? Guan asked, then turned to leave. Xuan was puzzled and followed him, asking, "What do you mean? Wasn't it that elder who flew her away?" Xuan. "Yes, senior brother. Sometimes having a big heart is a good thing. Keep it that way." Huh. Guan ignored Xuan and walked towards the heavenly spirit pond. Watching the carp in the pond had become one of his pleasures. Earlier, LV Baitin had sought him to discuss the Golden List Conference and the world's first sword society. Not wanting to exhaust himself with future military strategies, he hadn't offered many opinions, so LV Baitin hadn't stayed long. The coming days should be peaceful for many years. Guan thought to himself. In the cold winter, the news of Sword Venerable Fudao killing Taoist Tianjian with a single strike began to spread across the 9 dynasties, and the Supreme Sect used this momentum to negotiate with other dynasties to expand their influence. Though the process was difficult, the Supreme Sect's high-ranking officials didn't feel tired. From top to bottom, everyone felt a surge of energy, knowing that the Supreme Sect was on the rise. With the strongest cultivator in the world backing them, how could the Supreme Sect not dominate the 9 dynasties? Years flew by. 5 years passed swiftly, and 67-year-old Guan walked out from the elixir hall. He paused at the entrance, looking back and sighed gently. Zhu Qinglu was no longer there, having retired. Though the new elder was very respectful to him, Guan still felt somewhat uncomfortable. Old friends were gone, and new people had arrived. Guan turned back and blended into the bustling street. In 5 years, the Supreme Sect had risen, evident from the increasing number of disciples in the Outer Gate city. The Golden List Conference had become famous worldwide, and in 5 years, it would be held at the Supreme Sect. It was said that the Supreme Sect invited 100 clans from the 9 dynasties to lead the event, which would attract more and more geniuses to participate in the future. Guan suspected that the Ji family and the Gu family had contributed significantly, but of course, other families also wanted to invest in the Supreme Sect. Having more paths to tread was always beneficial. As Guan walked through the streets, he could hear the discussions of disciples passing by. Many famous talents' names filled his ears, with An Hao being mentioned the most frequently. Last year, An Hao went down the mountain to gain experience and developed a grudge with the demon path. Using his core formation realm cultivation, he killed a nascent soul realm great cultivator, making a name for himself in the immortal cultivation world. The title of the Supreme Sect's top genius was firmly placed on An Hao's head, with no one able to challenge it. As for LV Xian, although he was the champion of the 100 Clans Conference, those clans were high above the world and didn't engage directly with the immortal cultivation world. In the past 5 years, Gu An's days had been very calm, but his lifespan had increased by over 700,000 years, surpassing 2 million years. The goal of 10 million years no longer seemed so distant, leaving him motivated and never feeling tired or bored. "Brother Gu, long time no see." A voice came from around the corner of the street. Guan turned to see the Jueshan sect's genius Zhou Tongyu approaching. Behind Zhou Tongyu was an elder who was plump, holding a feather fan, looking quite endearing. Before Zhou Tongyu reached Guan, Lu Lingjun appeared out of thin air in front of him. Years ago, after she followed LV Baitin, Lu Lingjun returned the next day. She was now an inner sect elder, but her task was to protect Guan. This had frustrated her for a long time. If not for fearing Sword Venerable Fudao, she would have long ago unsheathed her sword against LV Baitin. Leah turned to leave. "Leaving already?" Guan quickly asked. Leah waved his hand, cultivating the path of immortality, no time for chit-chat. "If you want to see me, perform well at the Golden List tournament." He leapt, turning into a sword light, flying across the mountains, disappearing without a trace. Guan stared at the invitation in his hand, speechless for a long time. On the mountain top, Chu Jingfeng turned his head, looking in the direction Leah disappeared, frowning. He remembered Leah. Back then, due to Li Ya's prince status, he even spoke a few words with him, encouraging him to practice diligently. After many years, their statuses and positions were vastly different, and he was not the sky. Guwen shook his head with a smile, then put the items into his storage bag. This guy always gave things when they met, seemingly knowing his personality, and always giving items that boosted cultivation levels and qualifications. Another year saw the arrival of the Spring Festival. After dusk, Mystic Valley was very lively. Guwen had just come from the Third Medicine Valley, sitting around a long table with the disciples. Zhen Qin sat on his right, continuously pouring wine for him and talking about matters in the immortal cultivation world. The hateful Heaven Divine sword appeared in the great Jianghu dynasty nearby, turning the immortal cultivation world upside down. It said that the hateful Heaven Divine sword has reached the transformation realm and is accompanied by demons, very terrifying. I'm not sure if it's senior brother Su Han, Zhen Qin sighed towards the end. Talking about Su Han made her sad. They used to be so close, but now their paths diverged into good and evil. Guwen said, "He is no longer your senior brother. Don't call him that anymore to avoid trouble for you and us." Zhen Qin wanted to argue, but looking at the many disciples in Medicine Valley, she remained silent. Guwen began picking up food for her while watching the other disciples play drinking games. After a bowl of wine, Zhen Qin perked up and started talking about Anhao. Mentioning Anhao, her face filled with admiration, she spoke endlessly. Guwen listened attentively. Suddenly, he sensed something and his expression changed slightly. After Zhen Qin finished, he said, "I need to visit my room. You can continue later. I want to know about Anhao and the specific grievances with the Wanyin sect demon." After speaking, he stood up and returned to his room. Zhen Qin was not puzzled, starting to toast with Lu Jiujia. Back in his room, Guwen activated the restrictions, then stepped 100 miles away. In the dark forest, there were 13 ghost-like figures moving forward. 4 of them carried a big coffin. They did not notice Guwen nearby, spying on them in the dark. A group of Unification Realm cultivators. Chapter 126. Immortal King Crown, Evil Emperor Guwen threw lifespan detection at the 13 figures in the forest one after another, and found that the cultivation levels of these 13 people were the same, all at the 3rd level of the Unification Realm, and their ages were also the same. They all had the surname Guwen could not help but think of the 9 Nether 13 evil that had alarmed the immortal cultivation world before. What were these people doing at the Supreme Sect? There were still a few years left before the Golden List Conference. Seeing that they were not moving quickly, Guwen did not hurry to stop them, wanting to see what these guys were up to. That large coffin attracted Guwen's attention. His divine sense probed into the coffin and found a skeleton. The skeleton emitted a bizarre feeling, and there was a dark golden crown on its head. The crown's gemstones had disappeared, leaving several grooves, yet it still seemed extraordinary. About half an hour passed. 13 figures all stopped in unison. The leader, Li Shoyo, turned around and waved his hand. The 4 people carrying the large coffin followed suit and put it down, then began to open it. Just as the cover of the coffin was about to open, a hand suddenly pressed down on it. The 13 people all looked at the end of the coffin, only to see Guwen standing there, shrouded in dark purple demonic chi, his right hand pressing down on the coffin lid. The forest fell into silence. These 13 people did not run and did not attack. The other 12 all looked at Li Shoyo. Their entire bodies were pitch black, like ghostly shadows, their true appearances unclear and their emotions indiscernible. Li Shoyo nodded slightly, then knelt down. Seeing this, the other 12 followed suit and knelt down. The 9 Nether 13 evil pay respects to Sword Venerable Fudao. Li Shoyo said in a deep voice, not loud but clearly articulated. Guwen was surprised. Were these people specifically looking for him? No wonder their actions were strange, not like invaders. Guwen spoke, "Give me a reason not to destroy you." These 13 should be ghost cultivators, shrouded in ghostly energy, but still possessing human chi blood and vitality. Li Shoyo answered, "We are the 9 Nether 13 evil, sent by the Ghost Mother of Ephemera, to present the Immortal King crown to Sword Venerable Fudao, to help the Venerable return to the position of Land Immortal. Ghost Mother of Ephemera? Guan was even more astonished. The cultivation level of the Ghost Mother of Ephemera was even one small realm lower than the 9 Nether 13 evil. How could she command these people? Why? Guan asked. He did not sense any hostility from these 13, indicating they might not be lying. Li Shoyo responded, "This is the Ghost Mother's command." She has been comprehending your sword intent in the Supreme Sect for many years and discovered that you should have mastered the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword. This swordsmanship was promoted by the imperial family Li of the Taicang dynasty, but in fact, it was not created by the primordial ancestor of the Li family, but came from the immortal king of the Ephemera sect, who is the Ghost Mother's ancestor. Because of this, the Ghost Mother came to the Taicang dynasty, intending to find the ancestor's inheritance before the Ephemera sect annihilates the Taicang dynasty. 200 years ago, the Ghost Mother had come, but unfortunately, the descendants of the Li family were mediocre in talent, and no one could comprehend the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword, so the Ghost Mother could only lie dormant. Gu's Taicang Divine Shocking Sword did come from the Li family, but he did not expect the primordial ancestor of the Li family to be related to the Ephemera sect. Does your Ghost Mother want to obtain the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword? Guan asked. Li Shoyo replied, "The Ghost Mother wants to invite you back to the Ephemera sect, to use the sword intent of the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword to reclaim the position of sect hierarch of the Ephemera sect." After hearing this, Guan fell into silence. What kind of scheme was this? Driving away the tiger to swallow the wolf? Guan pushed the coffin lid open with one hand, finding that the coffin was quite hard and concealed rich restrictions, probably also a magic artifact. His gaze fell on the skeleton in the coffin. Although it was lifeless, this skeleton was very sinister. To be safe, he still threw a lifespan detection at it. Evil Emperor, Mahayana Realm 5th Layer 7600/9999/9999. Good heavens. He could actually detect it, and its maximum lifespan was identical to an house. Guan's expression remained unchanged. He leaped up, landing on the edge of the coffin, overlooking the skeleton of the evil emperor. The 9 Nether 13 evil immediately knelt, remaining silent. Guan's eyes suddenly opened wide, and 2 cold lights shot out from his eyes. Boom! The skeleton of the evil emperor was instantly blasted into powder, turned into dust, leaving only the immortal king crown lying in the coffin, and the bottom of the coffin was also pierced by the breaking path divine light. The 9 Nether 13 evil raised their heads, glanced at it, and then lowered their heads again. A prompt appeared in front of Guan. You have successfully taken 320 years of lifespan from the evil emperor, Mahayana Realm 5th Layer. Guan immediately felt a sigh of relief. Damn it! Almost scared to death. Who would have thought that this skeleton was still alive, and with a Mahayana Realm 5th Layer cultivation level? In that instant, Guan imagined many possibilities in his mind, even feeling that he had resolved a catastrophe for all living things. The name of the evil emperor did not sound like anything good. And still playing dead, hiding in a coffin, clearly harboring a world-shattering plot. Guan raised his hand, and the immortal king crown flew into his hand. He did not grab it directly but instead attached spiritual power to the immortal king crown, avoiding physical contact. He looked at Li Shoyo and asked, "Do you know the evil emperor?" Upon hearing this, Li Shoyo was momentarily stunned, then quickly said, "To be honest, this skeleton is indeed the remains of the evil emperor. 5,000 years ago, there was internal strife within the Ephemera sect, and the evil emperor was plotted against by a villain, poisoned, and unable to gather spiritual power. In desperation, he put on the immortal king crown and was instantly drained of vitality, turning into a skeleton. As a result, the immortal king crown was listed as a forbidden artifact by the Ephemera sect, and no one dared to touch it. In that case, why do you dare to bring this thing to me?" Guan's tone revealed bone-chilling killing intent. Li Shoyo said calmly, If one masters the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword, the Immortal King Crown would recognize its master upon sensing the sword intent. The one who created the crown is the same person who created the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword. Guan continued to ask, what is the relationship between the ghost mother of ephemera and the evil emperor? The ghost mother is a descendant of the evil emperor. Why would she bring her ancestors' remains to me? Isn't she afraid of offending me? The ghost mother hates her own bloodline. When she was young, her father turned her into an evil ghost, so she looked for the descendants of the Li family. The Li family has nothing to do with her bloodline. The founding ancestor of the Li family was only a disciple of the ephemera sect. She wants others who inherit the Taicang Divine Shocking Sword to seize the position of sect hierarch of the ephemera sect and complete her revenge. How dare you be certain you could find me? The ghost mother said that as long as we approach the outer gate city where the heavenly repair platform is located, you would detect us, even if we concealed our cultivation levels, because of the vast difference in cultivation levels. The energy concealing sorcery used by Li Shoyo and the others was indeed formidable, and only Guan could see through it. Until now, they had not revealed a trace of their aura. Guan continued his questioning, and Li Shoyo answered one by one. After half an hour, Guan pondered, I will accept the Immortal King Crown. You can leave now. Li Shoyo flipped his hand and took out a short flute, saying, This is the 9 nether flute. As long as you blow it, we will come at once, waiting for your command. From now on, you are the sect hierarch of the ephemera sect, at least in our hearts. Guan raised his hand to take it, then used divine sense to inspect it. Seeing him, LV Xian's expression immediately became unnatural. Since being defeated by Guan, he had been cultivating madly, with his cultivation level soaring. Now, he had reached the 6th layer of the nascent soul realm. 99 years old and a 6th layer nascent soul. Very impressive. But LV Xian felt frustrated. Despite consuming so many elixirs, he still couldn't break through to the divinity transformation realm before 100 years old. Are you participating in the Golden List Conference? LV Xian asked as he drew near. Guan replied with a smile, Why should I participate? My talent is so poor that attending would only bring embarrassment. LV Xian's mouth twitched. He took a deep breath and said, I plan to participate. One night 3 years ago, I suddenly felt much less pressure. These past 3 years, I haven't been affected by heart demons or dreams. I might as well participate in the Golden List Conference to relax. Relax? Others were probably in for a tough time. Guan inwardly mocked, then sensed the residual soul aura within LV Xian. One residual soul was missing. Previously there were 7 souls, now only 6 remained. 3 years ago at night, Guan suddenly thought of something. Could it be that the evil emperor also left residual souls within LV Xian? This did not make sense. How could the evil emperor and LV Xian be related? The evil emperor was a long-dead hierarch of the ephemera sect, while LV Xian was the biological son of LV Baitin. Could LV Baitin have a connection with the ephemera sect? Chapter 127. Path of Returning Primordial Spirit. Completely becoming a dragon, Guan was merely puzzled and had no intention of investigating LV Baitin or LV Xian. No matter what these people's identities were, or what conspiracy they might have, as long as it didn't affect him, he couldn't be bothered to care. The hearts of the people in this world were unpredictable. To investigate each one would be exhausting. Guan and LV Xian started to chat idly. Now, LV Xian was very respectful towards him and didn't dare to be even a little frivolous. They chatted for quite a while before Guan finally left. Everyone in the valley was already used to him not spending the night in Tianya Valley. After Guan left, LV Xian found Yi Luyun and began to spar in combat, preparing for the Golden Ranking Tournament. There were only 2 years left until the Golden Ranking Tournament. Years passed by, and the 9 dynasties' lands welcomed peace, while the Supreme Sect's Golden Ranking Tournament drew the attention of people from all over the world, becoming a once-in-century grand event. 2 years later, as the Golden Ranking Tournament approached, cultivators could be seen soaring across the sky over Mystic Valley every day. Unlike before, the Supreme Sect dispatched many disciples to patrol and protect all outer sect servant disciples, maintaining their image as the true orthodox sect of the world. 72-year-old Guan was in the loft, receiving Yilan. The first batch of disciples who went to train on the Nine Nether Road had all returned and were all preparing to participate in the Golden Ranking Tournament to bring glory to the Supreme Sect. Having not seen each other for many years, Yilan's temperament had become even more outstanding, showing the demeanor of a genius female cultivator. She remembered Guan's words and had been continually cultivating Taoist expansion skill, so her cultivation level hadn't increased. The two sat and chatted, with Yilan recounting the wonders of the Nine Nether Road, and Guan listened with keen interest. The Nine Nether Road, which was said to be a road, was actually more like a secret realm, with demons and ghosts running rampant, having its own unique ecosystem and producing many special heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Yilan said that she also encountered cultivators and members of the demon clan not from the Nine Dynasties lands within the Nine Nether Road. From her descriptions, Guan envisioned many scenes in his mind and found them very interesting. After chatting for a full hour, Guan finally asked, "Will you be participating in the Golden Ranking Tournament?" Yilan nodded and said, "Yes, the elders gave me a post. All the 100 disciples from the Nine Nether Road must participate. The first Golden Ranking Tournament must be grand and cannot bring shame to the Supreme Sect." Guan began to inherit the primordial reincarnation skill, and Earth spirit energy surged into his body. A vast amount of memory flooded his mind. The primordial reincarnation skill contained the mysteries of the Taoist expansion skill and extended the profoundness of accumulating cultivation level to be passed on through lifetimes. After cultivating the primordial reincarnation skill, one's cultivation level would no longer increase. Instead, through accumulating spiritual power, one's aptitudes would transform. Unlike the Taoist expansion skill, it was no longer limited to one lifetime but could be repeated, and each time the accumulated cultivation level was greater, the transformation in aptitude would be more substantial. Moreover, the primordial reincarnation skill would form a soul imprint. After a cultivator's death and rebirth, the memory of the skill would awaken in adulthood in each lifetime, continuing to accumulate until reaching immortality or the soul's demise, where the path of reincarnation ceased. The path of returning primordial spirit was an extremely domineering sealing divine skill that could suppress a being's cultivation level to a certain realm or even completely seal them, turning them into a mortal spirit without any cultivation. This seal could only be unlocked using the path of returning primordial spirit. Even if powerful beings far surpassing Guan's capabilities tried to help, it would cause the spiritual power to run amok, making the sealed one's cultivation run wild and causing immediate death. Upon understanding this divine skill, Guan was very fond of it. He just happened to be lacking such a means. As for the primordial reincarnation skill, he considered it mastered, and he was not inclined to invest more time into it. He did not seek thousands of worlds. He only pursued this lifetime. But this skill could be taught to those he cared about. Through the memories of the primordial reincarnation skill, Guan learned a harsh truth. The 9 layers of Immortal Path, each layer harder than the last. The first layer was Nirvana, a realm where mortal spirits transcended. Before reaching Nirvana, lifespans could not exceed tens of thousands of years. Only after Nirvana could one witness a fundamental transformation in life essence, drastically increasing lifespan. Guan suddenly realized that maximum lifespan might not just indicate aptitude but could also represent the maximum time each being had in this world, serving as a measure of one's life. For example, Anhao had nearly 10,000 years to pursue the Nirvana realm, while Yilan had less than 200 years. The latter, even with multiple opportunities, would be in vain. The Taoist expansion skill could help Yilan extend her time in the world, but its effect was limited. Even if Yi Lan mastered the primordial reincarnation skill, her maximum lifespan would only increase several times at most. Guan slowly opened his eyes, his gaze deep. Now, he had truly become a dragon. Wu Ju suddenly appeared on the rooftop where Guan and Yi Lan were, 7 steps away. He frowned and asked, "Who is this woman? Are you not being faithful to Miss Shen?" Upon hearing this, Yi Lan squinted her eyes at Guan and asked, "Who is Miss Shen?" Guan felt a headache coming on and immediately said, "This is my junior sister, Yi Lan. Miss Shen is nothing, how can she compare? I just have some dealings with Miss Shen, nothing more." Yi Lan's expression softened upon hearing this. Wu Ju angrily said, "Forget about Miss Shen, why didn't you come to see me after you were done?" Yi Lan was taken aback. She thought Wu Ju had something to do with Miss Shen and had come to stand up for her, but why did his tone suddenly change? Guan shook his head and said, "Why are you shouting so loud? I didn't want to disturb your cultivation. What, do you want to hit me?" Wu Ju's face turned red with anger, and he muttered, "How could I hit you?" Yi Lan sensed that Wu Ju was not simple, and looking at his embarrassed demeanor, she became more curious about his relationship with Guan. Subsequently, Guan invited Wu Ju to sit down. Although reluctant, Wu Ju sat on the other side of Guan, "Junior sister, this is my brother, named Wu Ju, who is also participating in the Golden Ranking Tournament," Guan introduced. Yi Lan nodded towards Wu Ju. Wu Ju scratched his head and said, "I can participate in the Golden Ranking Tournament thanks to Brother Gus' post." Yi Lan couldn't help but look at Guan, her eyes filled with suspicion. Senior brother's methods were quite impressive. He registered himself, but he could also get a post for someone else. It's Taicang Dynasty's primary sect, with few disciples, but each is powerful. It's said they once produced an immortal, though the truth is unknown. Guan silently noted the sect's name. Sage Xian Miao's Taoist seal was indeed powerful, enough to showcase the deep-rooted foundation of Three Pure Ones Mountains Taoist tradition. An hour later. Finally, it was Wu Ju's turn to make a move. The battles at the Foundation establishment realm were not as exaggerated as those of Sage Xian Miao, so many were not very expectant. However, once Wu Ju threw a punch, the earth-shattering momentum immediately captured everyone's attention in the city. With each punch, it was like the sun bursting forth, the scorching fist wind making it hard for his opponent to counter. Each of Wu Ju's punches was full of power, extremely domineering. After 8 punches, his opponent was beaten to their knees, continuously coughing blood. The winner is Wu Ju from Supreme Sect of Taicang Dynasty. The city erupted in discussions, starting to talk about Wu Ju. Yi Lan was stunned. She knew Wu Ju was exceptional but didn't expect him to be this formidable. Guan watched with a smile on his face, aware that Wu Ju's legendary journey was about to begin. That sunset fist was quite ordinary, but Wu Ju practiced it to a level of transformation, even exhibiting signs of advancement. Path enlightenment seemed to enhance his understanding of fist techniques. In the afternoon, within the Third Medicine Valley, Guan and LV Baitian met in a pavilion. After months, LV Baitian looked pleased and exuberant. He opened his right hand, revealing a pearl in his palm, and smiled. "This is a supreme-grade magic artifact, the Thousand Shadow Pearl. In the next 2 days, refine it, and then use it at the end of the month meeting." Guan accepted the Thousand Shadow Pearl, and smiling bitterly asked, "Do you still want me to keep winning?" In recent days, some cultivators in the Golden List tournament had won using magic artifacts. According to the rules, each cultivator could only bring 1 magic artifact or formation to maintain fairness. Sword cultivators, blade cultivators, array repairers, and others had to use magic artifacts. Banning them would be unfair. Even with only 1 magic artifact allowed, instances of cultivators winning using magic artifacts had already led to criticism in various cities. LV Baitian laughed. "I've already planned your opponents and combat times. There's still time. I don't expect you to become world famous, but getting close to the top 500 would lay a solid foundation. With talents from 9 dynasties gathered, the top 500 were naturally extraordinary individuals. Guan had intended to just have fun, but he didn't expect LV Batian to play it this way. Sect leader, fairness, fairness. Don't forget these 2 words. Guan reminded helplessly. LV Batian's methods were never righteous. And Hao looked at Li Ya in astonishment, then followed with a wild smile. The battle light screen transmitted part of the battle pressure, allowing the spectators to know the fight was real. Once Li Ya's sword intent was released, the entire Supreme Sect was thrilled. This is the sword intent of Sword Venerable Fudao. Li Ya has received the inheritance of Sword Venerable Fudao? I've stayed at the Heavenly Repair platform for days. This is definitely the sword intent of Sword Venerable Fudao. Li Ya is so powerful, I didn't expect the strongest among the royal disciples to be him. He's much stronger than his sister Li Xuanyu. The city Guan was also erupted in a thunderous uproar. Countless people were amazed by the Taicang Divine shocking sword unleashed by Li Ya. Wu Ju felt the sword intent and sighed, so powerful, I feel like it won't be easy to win against him. Guan glanced at him. Just not easy? Entwined in the sword intent, Li Ya straightened, raising his sword to point at Hao, his black hair fluttering and black robes rustling. His entire demeanor changed dramatically, his expression became more severe. The battle only truly begins now. Li Ya said coldly he didn't expect to be forced to use the Taicang Divine shocking sword so early, blaming his own bad luck for encountering Hao prematurely. When he unleashed the Taicang Divine shocking sword, he felt the battle was over. Although Hao had yet to unleash powerful spells, no spell could match the Taicang Divine shocking sword. Hao's comprehension of sword intent was kept secret. Li Ya, who was often away, had no clue about Hao's combat techniques. However, seeing Hao smiling, Li Ya felt puzzled. This guy's gone mad? Hao patted his robe, his smile growing. Boom! An overwhelming sword intent surpassed Li Ya's, shaking the entire valley. Violent sword chi condensed into a giant face above Hao, looking down at Li Ya. Before this giant sword chi face, Li Ya looked insignificant, his sword chi trivial. Impossible! How do you also know the Taicang Divine shocking sword? Li Ya shouted in disbelief. In the outer gate city, countless people gasped. Even Hao had received the inheritance of Sword Venerable Fudao. The ghost mother of ephemera on the Heavenly Repair platform looked at the light screen in the sky, her brows furrowed, her eyes also showing shock. The Taicang Divine shocking sword, which had disappeared for thousands of years, reappeared in the mortal world, and 3 inheritors emerged at once? The ghost mother of ephemera, well aware of the Taicang Divine shocking sword's origins, was also taken aback, her respect for Sword Venerable Fudao growing. She could tell these 2, wielding the Taicang Divine shocking sword, were certainly related to Sword Venerable Fudao. In the light screen, Hao soared into the air, looking down on Li Ya, said with a smile, "Since we are from the same lineage, let's see whose sword intent is stronger."